Very tuneful one, this one, isn't it? It's like a sort of little, almost feels a bit Christmassy. Could be Christmassy. I'm not sure. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, good evening. I'm Ursa Ryan. We're live on a marvellous evening, an auspicious evening, a wonderful time for everybody who is excited about Civ 7, but specifically about the best bits of Civ 7, eh? The most wonderful part of any Civilization game. Possibly tonight, we will see railroads. Hello, good evening, everyone. Huzzahs in chat. How are you all doing? Hello, 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 hello. How are we doing this fine Tuesday? I tell you what, I'm doing wonderfully. What a fine Tuesday it is. It's chucking it down where I am. It is a proper Northern Hemisphere English winter evening of grey and hiding indoors, not going outside. Yes, it's wonderful. Hello, everyone. Good evening. If Firaxis just released a $70 copy of Live Gloriously, it would be worth every penny. I know we have the tune now. We have the main tune. How exciting. It was good, wasn't it? I think it's a song that might grow on me just a little bit, because at the moment it's hovering around the sort of 7 to 8 out of 10 on the banger list. You know, if 1 out of 10 was something that just makes your skin crawl, like a Cliff Richard Christmas song, and 10 out of 10 is the thing that you physically can't sleep because it's going around in your head, the tune is stuck in there. It's about a 7, I reckon. It's not quite the Baba Yetu, but I think we just haven't had the time. We just haven't had the time to really comprehend its glory. Good evening, everyone. There is a new vid on diplomacy. Oh, did I miss a little short? There's been a couple of shorts and videos out on the main Civilization channel recently. Need to keep an eye on it all. Oh yes, I think I have seen that one because it was referring to Machiavelli, wasn't it? Yes, I remember that one. I'm very good. Really good, MatNat. Having a lovely evening. Very excited for some modern era Civ. Should be good. It's been an earworm for you. Not Baba Yetu, but better than Sonio de Volar. That was the Civ 6 song. I can never tell the difference between Civ 5 and Civ 6 in terms of the namings of them. Could be either. Could be either. Thank you. Nice hat. I know. It's the height of Christmas fashion, isn't it? Still has the slight baked-in smell from the Civ Give evening. It hasn't quite come out yet, but it's just hardcore gaming within the wool. It's lovely. Good evening and good night. It's currently 12:30 a.m. and I will probably just sleep soon. Merry Crimbus to everyone. Questionable avocado. You've got a questionable bedtime. Good. Go to bed. It's far too late. Hello, everyone. SB. Daruv. We've got Skiptar. There's a few people I recognize. I think I saw some people I recognized in chat earlier. Nicola was here. Clint was here. Marcos was here. Just having a look through. Some good, wonderful friends of the channel. Give a hat to the Gengar. I know. You can see the Gengar in shot this evening. I have a feeling I might have pushed my camera around slightly when I was cleaning my desk a little bit. I have this issue where, unlike a lot of the digital apparatus around my desk and in the study, they don't have wires you can remove. So, for instance, I have screens on my desk, and one of my screens is about 7 million light years away from my actual desktop. So I had to buy a specially long HDMI cable, but I've got a really long one now and it goes around. But my webcam, it only has a one size of lead, and it is the smallest lead that anyone has ever put on any piece of equipment in the world, which means I have to have it like the minimum distance away from my desktop as is humanly possible. And if I ever move anything, the whole thing just gets pulled out of whack. So I'm currently down in the sort of bottom right of the picture here. I can probably... Actually, there we go. It's a little better. That's a little better. There you go. Just see the grin of Gengar now. Actually catching the beginning of the stream. Good evening, us, Zachary. It's good to see you. At the beginning of the stream, I hope you're doing well. I'm hoping they show off more influence and spy interactions in this stream. Maybe. Which other leader do you think they will reveal today? They said they were going to do 2. And Benjamin Franklin has already been shown. I don't know. I actually have no idea. I am intrigued to see as well. I am intrigued as well. Uncle Bernard is a good question. Victor, what's in the background bookshelf? Books. That is a green screen now. I know, it's like a green screen, but full of ghost. I love it. I love it. What time is the stream? The actual stream that we're going to be watching in on is on the hour. 6 o'clock UK time. 24 minutes from now. Thought I'd have a quick chat with you all beforehand just to say hello. I'm on the Civ 7 train. Seattle, we are all on the Civ 7 train. We are all equally excited. Well, I think not everyone is as excited as I am. I'm very excited, but I have admittedly had a small advantage. I have played Civilization 7 and it did play well. So I naturally am a little bit excited about it. I won't lie. A lot of people who have no experience with the game at all, perhaps are a little bit worried as to whether or not it's going to be like Civ 5 or Civ 6. The age system's going to split off. We'll only know that when it comes out, but I am quite excited because the Antiquity Age, it played very well. It reminded me very much of Civ, and that's all a good thing. Hello, 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 Dr. Richard. Is that EU or EW? Do you say the capital E? Is it silent E? Is it Dr. Richard W? I don't know. Have I seen the Diplomacy short? I did see it when it first came out, but I won't lie, not much of the detail has absorbed itself in my grey matter of my brain. I've had a week where I've been all over the place. I have been bouncing off every wall. My sanity has been split into several pieces. Doctor Strange, multiverse of madness style, just scattered into the mirror plane. I have no idea what day it is, where I am, how many sleeps until Christmas, who I am, what drawing I'm on. I don't know. I'm totally out of it at the moment. It's like you're disgusted in me. Ew, yeah, that's okay, fair enough. I wonder if Elizabeth II will be added to Civ now she's passed. No, I don't think so. I think the closest they will ever go is about World War II. Normally, there is a bit of an unwritten rule in gaming culture or general TV culture where if you want to try and avoid upsetting people, you normally go at least one generation back from anybody still alive, right? And World War II was kind of on the cusp of that, if not really. It was quite close. So I don't think they'll go anything later than maybe 1940s, 1950s at a push. I don't think we'll be seeing modern leaders, but Elizabeth would be very funny. Which do you think the Antiquity playthrough is like? Civ 4, Civ 5, or Civ 6? It actually reminded me a little bit of Civ 5 in a weird way. There was a similar sort of vibe, possibly to the graphics. But it did remind me the most of Civ 6. It played like a Civ 6 game, especially with the popping things onto the map and interacting with the map. It was very good. Mustache Man, I don't think we will. I don't want to see him. I think 9 out of 10 people don't really want to see him in a game of Civ. There's a very small and vocal minority of people that would like to see him. I don't think I want to see him. Not really. Hope everyone in the cold is staying warm. Hope so too. Justin Bieber as leader of Canada. Possibly. We'll see Elizabeth II in Civ. Oh, CI12. Is that Civilization 2? No, 104. Is that 104? What's C? I should know what C is in Roman numerals. Is that 100? Yeah, century. Yeah, so 104. Maybe. Yes, it's 104. Right, I doubted myself for a second there. I was thinking I knew what CIV was, and then I pulled back rapidly. My confidence plummeted into the floor as I started to talk about it. Aliens come and say they'll destroy Earth unless you win a game of Civ 6 with Deity++ and Roman Holidays difficulty mod. Which Civ do you pick? Shuffle map, no game modes, except Barb clans. If I was going to have to play against a hard difficulty with Roman Holiday and I wanted to make sure I was going to reliably do very well, I would play Basil and Byzantium. Because I'm pretty sure it is impossible to lose as Basil and Byzantium. I think it is actually illegal to lose with Basil and Byzantium. Absolutely. Perkins D, hello. You called it. You see, you know me too well. You know me far too well. How you doing? Good to see you on stream. What's the best way to learn Civ 6? 150 hours and still have no clue. If you go to a wonderful YouTuber called Ursa Ryan, and you go to his homepage on his YouTube channel and scroll down a little bit, you will notice I have a playlist of Civ 6 deity guides. I would recommend you have a look at some of those. There are two that I can think of. There was a game I played with Korea, where I walk you through a guaranteed 100 science by turn 100 playstyle. That, if you can get that into your head, really good foundations of the game. Another one, I played Nubia on the 6-pronged snowflake map. I think that was a really good deity guide as well. I would advise you have a look at those two videos. They should be just on the homepage of my channel. Should be anyway. Should be. And we'll go from there. Now, this evening, what are we doing here this evening? We are about to, in 18 minutes time, we are going to watch the developers live stream. They showcase the modern era, the modern age for the first time. We may see a lot of stuff. We've been promised industry, technology, possible planes, tanks, but maybe even one thing above all other things. Railroad. Maybe. So we're looking forward to those. Maybe nukes. We have seen nukes in the trailer. However, this evening, it is not just going to be you and I watching and talking just between us. We have a guest on this stream. For after the developers live stream, I will warn you now, I do need to disappear after that live stream pretty quickly. So tonight I'm not going to be able to hang around long at all after the developers live stream. However, don't worry, I will be back and streaming this weekend with some other special guests, and it would be a lot of fun because I've seen what we're going to be doing and it's rather crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun. But in order to get really good coverage and really good mileage out of tonight's small stream, we're going to be joined by a guest, the wonderful subject of my current guilt trip, WhiteAndNerdyTV, the infamously wonderful player on the civgive, the master of preserves in Golden Gate Bridge, the absorber of nukes. So I will just see if he's free, because we can chat to him imminently and he can join us this evening. Oh, he's actually watching the chat. There we go. I'm assuming you're going to be free then. give me a call whenever you're free on Discord and I'll pop you in. Oh dear. But it should be good. Tonight's stream should be like a lot of fun. It should be a lot of fun. We should be receiving some good information. Some wonderful information about the modern age. I was so impressed with White and Nerdy, I became a fanboy. I did. It's true. It's true. I've always been a fanboy of White and Nerdy, but that was the day that really got my attention, that made me go, huh. That's rather wonderful. Right. Hello there. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's good. And I'm hoping chat can hear you too. I've just been discussing that I've become very much a bit of a fanboy of your play after
I might have heard that.
Yeah.
I did take an extra second to get it here because I was laughing about that.
Yeah,
I had to open up your stream just to see how things were going, and it just was right when you started talking about me, and it was like, oh, this is perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Absolutely. We're going to turn you up a tiny bit. Yeah, no, it was... that play, it left an impression on me and on a lot of my audience. And actually, we've got a highlight video of that whole stream coming out soon, so people will be able to really, truly experience the...
Oh, that's fantastic. I was watching back one of your previous live streams, and you mentioned you were editing the civgive. live streamed down into a video, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Right? I am very excited for that. I haven't been able to actually like watch through the entire your perspective yet, and it's been funny. Every time you're like, nerdy, why does the city have 14 combat strength? I think he's asking for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if people haven't seen what we're talking about, this comment has it perfectly. The preserved Golden Gate Bridge built he pulled was pretty sick indeed. It was like 800 tourism from a single city. No, 800 sells it very much short. I think you were at 1,700, 1,800 tourism?
It was at 1,800 on the turn that you raised it, because we saw my tourism for my entire empire was at 2,000 per turn, which is enough to gain 10 tourists per turn, assuming all 10 players were still in the game. Actually, Zon was full killed, so that actually meant I was gaining less tourists than I should have been. And it dropped from 2,000 tourism per turn to 200, which means one city had 1,800 tourism, and the rest of the cities, which had a couple of great works here and there, and a couple of ski resorts, and a couple of those things. Like it's funny because I've learned, and I've talked to you about this before, is prioritizing. If you have a limited faith game, prioritizing your national parks in your RENA, forestry management city, because the high appeal, and that just doubles it out so far when it comes to Golden Gate Bridge, and it's so funny.
Glad that your magnificence did have a limitation there, because I don't think we would have survived more than about 8 turns left of you having that tourism in the game, because my culture was plateauing. I was only able to push it up so much, and you were beginning to claw that in every turn. I'd done the moon landing. I think you were taking Namadol off me. Kamasi was being taken from me. It was all going wrong. So I think it only would have been a small amount of time. But we must press forward, because tonight we've got an exciting stream to watch, haven't we? Modern Age.
We get to look forward from Civ 6 towards Civ 7 now.
I know. And so I hope they make nuclear countermeasures available in Civ 7. I'm hoping we find out about nuclear measures full stop.
For sure. They have to talk about nukes. You can't talk about the modern era without talking about nukes. It's got to be a thing. Because
we've seen nukes in at least a couple of the videos, right? In at least one of the shorts or one of the gameplay trailers. I swear we've seen nukes.
We have, in their reveal trailer, it was there. Yeah, they definitely had. And I think it was funny because like there was no background; it was literally just the city and getting nuked. And there's a few elements that they had that were definitely works in progress, where it's like there was no background or this or that, and it's funny because I remember seeing what I believe looked like the redwoods as a natural wonder. It looks like it. Or it's some type of natural wonder that was big trees, and this is early, so I didn't know if this was like a display of different types of vegetation, or if it was a natural wonder, or what it was.
Yeah, because it could have been by.
We know now.
I don't remember seeing the redwood on the list that I saw, but that was a very early list, and I didn't know if I was seeing the whole thing.
Definitely not something that's announced. But it is an Easter egg that I saw in the first.
Right. You see, this is the
trailer.
thing. This is why I rely on the community so much. Yeah, you see things. You see things that I don't. But we should find out a lot about that. Yeah, so the anti-nuclear laws and surface defense systems in 4. Well, obviously there was nuclear measures in 5, anti-air in 5. We've had nuclear measures in 6, anti-air in 6. The anti-air for nukes in 6 wasn't particularly strong. You know, like you can't shoot down nukes very easily.
Dude, it was so funny because I put so much time. You can't really practice the nuclear defense thing in Civ. You can just get really comfortable with the tech pushes and timings and all that kind of stuff. But I had in all of my cities, each city had 3 anti-air guns in it together, because I know anti-air adds support bonuses to each other. Yeah. But it still was not even close to enough to stop it.
Yeah. I think there's a calculation that goes against the bombard strength of the bomber. And I believe, unfortunately, the bomber that was being used at the time had the promotion that hits land units better. And I think that actually stacks with the anti-air, because it counts as if it's attacking a land unit when the anti-air comes into play. Because I've noticed that.
Is that why you didn't nuke the city directly? You nuked the tile next to it?
So that it hit the unit, yeah. Absolutely. Well,
Oh.
and I thought you'd have less anti-air around the back as well, but I've noticed that you have a lot more success if it's on a unit, because all those promotions stack that probably shouldn't stack. They work on boats as well. The bomber promotion that lets you attack boats actually works on anti-air as well if you're attacking a battleship or a missile cruiser or something like that. It's really weird. I don't know if these things are useful. Yeah, bomber promotions are useful.
Isn't it funny that we have probably over 5,006 hours, 1,000 hours of Civ collectively, and like there's still like mechanics all the time that we're like, what?
I actually think it's worse for me. Hang on, 7,002
really
hours. Yeah, 7,200.
Oh, okay, yeah. So,
but infamously to this day, bomber promotions I barely use because I find bombers need to be attacking every turn. I can never be bothered to promote them, so I often just save them for when they've taken a bit of anti-air damage and I can't be bothered to heal them.
Absolutely.
Short of playing Grand Columbia, but yeah, it's just one of those things. Since we have commanders and armies, perhaps a modern commander having a buff against nukes. Well, I think the leading theory is that we're going to have an air commander as the special commander for the modern age. So we've had land in antiquity, we've had navy, an admiral in explorations. I think we might get like an ace pilot or a form of air commander in... Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we have that in modern age. I might be wrong, but that seems to be where the leading thoughts are going on that. So
that's interesting. I like that. I think if Firaxis didn't do that, maybe they should think about doing that.
Absolutely. And there is always the risk as well. We might see a return to Civ 5 levels of AI being able to use planes ruthlessly, which may make this a lot trickier as well.
Yeah, and the fact that, generally speaking, the Civ 7 like D&D game is probably going to go way more smoothly, where there's like less micro, special, like all the specialists and city and the district placement and all that kind of stuff that kind of trips up the AI pretty easily.
Yeah.
Which a lot of that is streamlined in Civ 7.
Yeah.
Where that might just make D&D just better and harder to catch up to, and it's going to be really interesting. I'm so excited for Civ 7. I think you've done a really good job of highlighting your excitement and the reasons why you're excited for different things in Civ 7. And
that's it. And I definitely reading through chat, obviously some people are still a little bit concerned about aspects of it with the age system, with the removal of builders, but I think there's a whole chunk of complexity to get into here. And I think what you were saying before about Civ 6, the fact that we played it for 10,000 hours between us and we still miss mechanics. Like I'm only just finding out about Golden Gate through you after 7,000 hours, right? I think Civ 7 is going to take this to a new level in terms of a very simple game to get your head around at the beginning and an impossible game to learn the intricacies of when you really get, beyond skin deep into it. That's what I'm hoping. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I think every Civ game is going to be like that. Depending on who you're playing with, you're gonna, you could feel like the best player in the world of playing against, your friends, and then you jump into, a lobby with a bunch of other Civ creators. And you're like, oh wait, maybe not, and then you jump into like the people that do competitive leagues and stuff, and you're like, oh, maybe not again. And
this is different.
There's so much
different than I thought. Yeah, absolutely. We got some good questions coming in, actually. Will Civ 7 games be quicker on average than Civ 6? From my impression, they were very similar, to be honest with you. You get more turns in a game of Civ 7, but the absence of builders really did save time. So, we had about 3.5 hours, and we did get through the entire age. So, if you rushed, you probably could do it in like 7 hours, 8 hours, a whole game from start to finish, which isn't too far off.
The focus on reducing of micro decisions, especially late game stuff, and especially with commanders being able to grab armies together and move them as one unit. And there's so much quality of life in coming in Civ 7. I'm really excited for it.
There really is. I think honestly, it's going to play really well for multiplayer as well. I think the game is going to move quicker on a turn-to-turn basis, and there's going to be more focus on the sort of more grand economy and moving military units around, especially with commanders. So I am feeling positive about it. It should be good.
It's always fair to be hesitant before you actually try something.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to like the whole civ switching was something that I was hesitant at first, and now I'm at the point where it's like, this is actually how you should run a civ game.
Yeah.
This is awesome. You can get, obviously assuming with the roadmap of DLC, you can get so granular with how many civilizations and cultures you can represent, and even the differences between them, like the differences between, if you're talking about like, the Holy Roman Empire versus Germany or Prussia, or you can talk about like very specific empires that might have not had like a very like big touch on history as a whole, but maybe had a really big influence in a specific time, which affected other civilizations and things like that. So I think it's really interesting. We talked in my chat about a lot of different small kingdoms you could represent through the new age system, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, because Civ has always had this problem, right, where you can play America and you can play them from 4000 BC. It's totally unrealistic and always has been. They were, famously only came into the world much later. But ultimately, I think as people have found more about the Civ switching, you realize how much of a Civ actually does linger after an age disappears. You still have all of the social policies you unlocked. You've obviously got all of the unique infrastructure. So you do lose bits and pieces, but a lot of the flavor and the actual mechanics of the Civ you are playing stick around. And I think that's going to give people a feeling of retention that maybe they're worried about losing. And you've been really good at highlighting a few of those, like that specific point, especially where it's one of those where it's like, I think Frex is cooked. I think we're okay. we should be fine. How do we feel about them
going?
Any
last minute? Sorry, I was asking if you have any last minute predictions for this live stream before it starts.
Last minute predictions, yes. Even in chat, I want to see who you think the leader is going to be. I don't know. I actually don't know about this extra leader. We know. I think Ben Franklin. We know. Hopefully, we'll see some stuff about nukes. Hopefully, we'll see some stuff about planes. Maybe if there's a power system like we had in Civ 6, that would be cool. But mainly, I want to know what's happening with Railroad. That's my big one. Everything else is like, we shall see.
Speaking of railroads, I think you're going to be really excited when you finally play Mongolia, because those Ordus that restore movement are basically going to be pseudo railroads for your conquest early on, which is going to be really fun.
Yeah, I think that's going to be hilariously fun. It's going to be like, oh yeah, you want to get off this continent because Mongolia are here, and they will ruin it for everyone. They will ruin it. Just leave. It's better if you go. We've got Frida Kahlo, possibly Pedro. Maybe Alanis Morissette for Canada. There we go. We've had Justin Bieber as an alternative one. I think both choices for Canada.
That's great. I think Canada is probably going to be a DLC civ because they did announce Mexico, which is awesome to have a Mexican modern civilization.
Yeah. I still think there's going to be a whole other DLC for a fourth age. We'll see how late this goes. I like that take. Yeah.
I think because every civ game, they did expand, like Civ 6, like it used to end at going to Mars, right? And then they expanded, and then they added future government and future techs, and like with Gathering Storm, they took on all the extra, near future technologies that are currently in the works nowadays, but not actually fully fleshed out or figured out, like fusion being a big one, and of course carbon capture and a bunch of different things, and I think it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, we'll see.
Every Civ game is technically released in the future compared to the previous Civ game.
Yeah,
so it only makes sense that each Civ game will go a little further, and I think it's going to be interesting. So if your prediction of the modern era ends at like the Cold War, end of World War II and that kind of stuff, then it's a good chance. It's a really good chance. I think
it'll be interesting. So chat, keep an eye out as you're watching this reveal. We want to see what the latest historical point is that we can see. What tech, what building, what reference is being made to as far a date as possible, because we want to get this dated as well as possible. I'm still thinking. But anyway, it's about to start. We'll see what happens. See how we go. I'm very excited. Very excited.
Oh, you know what? I didn't see the cinematic.
Oh, did you not? It's
I
very
did it.
good.
I somehow missed this announcement about the cinematic and never got around to watching it. I was going to live react to it. Here we are.
Hang on, as I'm not putting the music onto the right chat. Hang on, let me just do this quickly. There we go.
And bury our regrets.
Should be able to hear it now. What's he done? Renounce your ways!
Every age has its secrets. In each layer of history, we can rediscover hope. A way to chart our future. Countless stories are carved into the Earth's strata.
Yeah, this is Gwendolyn Christie. This is the narrator.
Lessons of one age augur the next.
Definitely not Mongolia, this.
We must learn from our past. The future is waiting.
Or do we think that's a rocket or a nuke?
That looks like going to space, going to the moon.
Yeah.
That looks like the Apollo mission. I love that trailer because there's so many parallels.
Hey Civ fans, it's Sarah, your CM here. Thanks so much for joining us today for this live stream. We have shown you antiquity, we've shown you exploration, and now we are super stoked to show you the modern age today. We've got 2 new first looks to show you, one for Benjamin Franklin and one for a surprise leader we're really excited to show off. And we're also going to be diving into some modern age mechanics as well. And to speak to it all, I'm joined by Ed Beach, our creative director. Ed, in a couple words, how are you feeling about the modern age?
This is, I mean, I was really excited for the exploration age save, but this is another level. This is the end of our story. We have a 3-chapter story that we've been telling.
He's
this
excited.
is where it all
Look
comes
at
to a
him.
big conclusion.
Can't
and you
help
said we have a
himself.
few mechanics to show. We have a lot of mechanics.
Can't
to
help
show.
himself.
The modern
Right.
age is packed with content, packed with new systems. So I hope everyone's ready for quite a few explanations and some deep dives into things over the next couple hours.
We have 2 hours to do it, and we will try to get through as
Yeah.
much
2
as we
hours,
can.
there we go.
I'm also joined by Carl Berrien Harrison, our lead
Berrien.
designer. He joins us yet again from paternity leave. So Carl, thank you for joining us.
Can't keep himself away.
On a scale, using Civ difficulties, how are you feeling about parenthood?
I'm going to put it at an immortal, not quite deity. There are certainly deity level hard days, but there's a lot of ones that are much nicer. Just this morning
He's
as
being
I was
rushed
coming
by warriors.
in for this stream, my son was smiling at me and giving me all kinds of cute looks.
Young
so,
toddler
days like
warriors.
that are particularly special.
Nice. Well, from us at Firaxis, and obviously a lot of our players too, we just say congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you. Don't forget, you have another opportunity today to earn that Twitch drop. So all you have to do is watch for 15
The
minutes
Twitch
and be
drop.
sure to link your 2K account as well.
Great, I gotta open my
This
Twitch
will give
now.
you an exclusive Exploration Age banner, which is really cool to use in the game. You can use it in places like the multiplayer lobby or the load screen. screen. And just as a reminder, Civ 7 will not come with microtransactions nor loot boxes. These are just really cool ways to
No loot
customize
boxes?
your profile.
That's
And you can use this new banner
so
when
nice
Civ
to
7
say.
launches on February 11th,
Disappointed.
2025, which is right around the corner. You can even play it earlier if you pre-order February 6th. And
I just want
remember
the
that
clock.
we're coming out day
I
and
just want the
date
clock.
for
at it.
PC and console.
True.
That's
It's
awesome.
cross-play
Rancid.
and cross-save day 1 too, which is really, really
Well, did that
incredible.
come in the Founders?
And the last plugin, and we
pack
just
that you want?
showed
Or-
the
the collectible one.
collector's edition
Ah.
items. So for those Civ fans that really like the physical merch, that's a really cool edition to check out. So definitely do so. So what to expect from this live stream? We talked about it a little bit. We're going to be showing off some first looks. We're going to be showing off some exploration, or excuse me, modern age mechanics. Ed, what are some of maybe those mechanics that we might see on the stream?
Oh, here we go.
So remember that in each of our ages, we have legacy paths, which are how you build up your reputation in various parts of the game, whether it's science or culture or military or economics. We'll be showing you what those are like in the military, in the modern age. We're also going to show how the game ends. So the legacy paths have been sort of how you score points as you go through the game up until now, but that's not the way we want a proper Civ game to end, so we'll be explaining that,
we'll see an
and we'll go into
actual
what a victory is all about as well.
in this now, which is good.
Just in terms of
I'm glad they're not
mechanics,
going for like a
there's,
point system.
I
Yeah,
know
that's awesome.
fans out there who are really excited for us to show off railroads. We'll get to those. We'll show how the Industrial Revolution works.
Railroads.
And we'll get into all the crazy additions to combat in terms of air power and what
Air
that looks
power,
like.
revolution.
And while
Okay,
we show
okay.
you
Nice.
all of that awesome stuff, you can feel free to leave some
I
questions
feel like
in
he's seen
chat
my
for the
drawings
devs.
on the matter.
We will
I made
do our
my
best
interest
throughout
quite
all this
clear.
gameplay to
Oh, no,
definitely
no,
you
can. But without further ado, why don't we start off with that first look for that surprise leader I mentioned?
Oh. Harriet
Harriet Tubman.
Tubman.
Oh, okay.
I don't know her.
I never lost
She's
a pace.
huge in American
never
Black
crashed my
history.
train.
Led a lot of
Not many
slaves
can
to
say
freedom.
the same.
Born
Very
Araminta
good.
Ross to enslaved parents in Maryland, Harriet Tubman escaped from slavery and dedicated her life to saving countless others via the Underground Railroad. Facing
Underground
difficult
Railroad, I've heard
odds,
of that.
Tubman quickly moved enslaved peoples through a network of safe houses and across treacherous terrain to reach freedom.
Definitely an alternate leader idea, but really
Harriet
interesting.
Tubman excels at operating in secret, which makes her an excellent spy
Okay.
master.
Another spy
And
leader.
if war
Love
becomes
it.
inevitable, she has the resilience to persevere. In the modern age, consider pairing Harriet Tubman with America, whose
America.
production bonuses will help you build towards a
Interesting.
better future.
Multiple leaders for America
or
already.
choose a different path, all your own.
Statue of Liberty
But
we've
whatever
seen
you
before.
build, remember,
America being
to
an
build
industry
something
civ
you believe in.
kind of checks out.
I love the fireworks and the confetti.
Yeah,
Wait, so the Wonder animations early have confetti and later they have fireworks? That's cool.
seems
That
like
was
it.
our first look for Harriet Tubman. Ed, can you tell us a little bit about why Harriet Tubman for Civ 7?
Harriet Tubman is a leader choice that's sort of near and dear to our heart
gonna
at
say,
Firaxis
there's the
Games.
Maryland
Firaxis is
connection there.
based in Maryland, and if you look at historical figures from the state of Maryland, Harriet Tubman's right at the top of the list. So she was born on the eastern shore of Maryland across the Chesapeake Bay from Baltimore and Annapolis. And over on the eastern shore, there was a lot of slaveholding plantations. She was born on one of those in an enslaved status. It wasn't until she reached somewhere between 25 and 30 that she was able to figure out a way. She was about to be sold off to another family. She didn't want to go through that. She escaped. She made it to Pennsylvania. It was a dramatic moment in her life. She was actually across that state line and in Union territory and safe from enslavement. And she made the decision that she was going to go back home. She went back home 13 times
Wow.
to pull more of her family members out, get them to freedom into the North. So she's a local hero for us. She's a local hero for the whole state of Maryland. And we can bring some interesting, brand new type of gameplay through this type of leader that we maybe wouldn't have had with a political leader. So just like Machiavelli and Confucius and some of the other leaders that we've shown, she's a great representation
Definitely stepping
of
away from heads
how
of state.
not
I do
having
like
those
that.
political head of states
Absolutely.
gives us a chance to go in a really interesting direction.
That's awesome.
You would only
we
see her
are
as, like,
so
maybe a great
excited,
person
I think,
previously,
to represent
so this is
Harriet in
interesting.
this game, and also to show off her really cool abilities as well. And I know we've talked just on the subject of leaders. We are close to launch at this point. We have revealed the full number of civs, I think at a previous panel, as 31 civs, which is the most civs to ever come at launch with a civ game, which is awesome. I don't think that we have yet revealed the number for leaders, so I don't talk numbers right now. Like I said, at launch, 31 civs, and our leader count will be 26.
26
at launch,
leaders.
including 5 personas.
Okay.
Which
Wow.
I think at one point we had mentioned that this was the most leaders as well for a Civ game. Some of our eagle-eyed Civ historians were pointing out that this makes us tied with Civ 4's roster at launch, which also very impressive roster for Civ 4. But I know that we're really proud of the leaders that we put in this game and the
They're
depth
much more
that I
diverse
think we're
than in
able to
Civ
go
4 as
into
well in
with
terms
each
of
them,
abilities
including the
and
personas as well.
mechanics.
So we're super excited to
So,
show
but
those off.
This pretty much confirms not
why don't we
only
go ahead and
alternate
let's load up
leader
some gameplay
personas,
as
but also
well.
multiple
good.
leaders per civilization as
So
well.
Carl's
which is
going to be driving today,
awesome.
but this is actually a game that I started playing.
Oh, he's taking
I
credit.
was aware that we were going to do a couple different saves that we were going to show
Carl doesn't
today,
want the
so
credit
I
for his
wanted
city's
to
place
go
with.
ahead and help us out by getting a Harriet Tubman game set up. And I had to choose my pathway through history like you always do in Civ 7. And I was trying to think about how would Harriet Tubman make sense evolving towards an American Civ, because we knew we wanted to end with showing American gameplay. And she's a leader that automatically unlocks America. So I thought about her heritage and where she had come from. Her grandmother had been one of those enslaved people who was transported from West Africa to the United States. And so I thought, well, maybe I can somehow represent her West African heritage somehow with my gameplay in this game. So I thought, well, that's probably the Songhai Empire in
Songhai.
exploration.
I like
Songhai
it.
bonus, get great bonuses from Naval River. They pair really well with Egypt. So I started with Egypt.
Egypt
My
into
capital
Songhai
was
into America.
Waset, up,
Strange,
in the
but I love
top
it.
of the map that Carl's showing you, on this really cool lake with the Naval River that's spilled out to the
It looks
sea.
like he's been forward settled there on the left,
But
though. Look
let
at
me
that.
point out, this was actually not
Oh,
the
no.
first time I started
need
a
loyalty.
game as Egypt and Harriet Tubman. I actually was pretty confident I could go on Immortal difficulty, get a game up and going. It would proceed without a problem, without a hitch, and we'd get right to the live screen. That was not the case. I went into that game, saw some great navigable rivers, sent my settlers out there. Immediately, those spots were contested by the AIs nearby. I had multiple AIs going for those rivers. I did not get there. I got smacked back, and I actually had to restart. So this is
Okay, they're showing
Ed's
off
game
oil.
number 2.
There's a lot of
This is
oil
the
in the
better
desert.
timeline.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
this
oil.
is a way better timeline.
Definitely
I
interesting.
actually
We can also see the
had
leaders up
such a
there, as
nice,
people are saying. We've got
setup with these,
America,
multiple
Mexico,
navigable rivers that I was in
seen
such a strong
China,
place,
maybe Siam,
by the end of antiquity,
Mongol India,
that
and
I actually
France.
had 3 different opponents
We knew about
declare
France
war on me
before,
within the
so
first 10 turns
nothing
of
there that's
exploration.
too revealing.
And so, Carl, why don't you show us what one of Harriet Tubman's abilities is
1750
that really helped
CE,
me
by the
out
way.
during that time?
Turn
Yes.
one.
Yes.
Sounds good. So Harriet
If you want
Tubman's
a
ability is called
specific
Combat
year
and
for the
Raid.
dawn of the
She
modern
gets
age.
extra influence towards espionage actions, and then additional war support on wars declared.
basically,
against
don't
her.
declare war on her.
support is
You will
how
get so much war
impose
weariness.
war weariness penalties on other players. And so getting 5
There's America.
free war support is a
Get gold
huge bonus
every
when
time you
other
get a
people declare
resource.
war on you.
Nice, but look at the 290
And then the
gold per
last bit,
turn.
units ignore
100's
movement
not a
penalties
huge
from
amount.
vegetation.
I'm intrigued to see if
that's
that
really
gets
useful all the
balanced.
time, whether it's
It
removing
is.
your military units.
Interesting. Yeah, I
thought
think-
that
I think
that was gonna
numbers
help me get out
are
there
not
and get
gonna be
those
locked down
navigable
for a
rivers
while.
claimed
No.
with my early
Prospector.
settling.
Did you see that?
But it wasn't to be in the first
There's a
game. It was only
prospector
the second
civilian
game.
Oh,
unit for
civilian unit?
America.
To achieve that.
Did you see what it said?
So
It
now
does
we're
prospecting.
in the 3rd age. So I've been talking about sort of the game as it
No, I
evolved through
didn't.
those first 2 ages. We'll get more into exactly what happened with the Songhai. But we are on turn 1 of the modern age, and so
So
just
this
like we
is
showed
the
in
roller that we've
Exploration
seen
Age
before.
live stream about
And you can
how
see again,
exploration starts,
all
and
of
you
your
have
cities become towns
legacies
apart
that
from your
you've
capital,
established
unless
from
you
your
take
gameplay in the first 2 ages.
the card.
We have legacies
So we've
here,
seen that
and
before.
Carl's going to walk us through.
I'm probably
some
gonna
of
run that
our
card
choices.
a
Yep.
lot.
So we are
Every
choosing
time.
our legacy options from the points that you had earned.
Tap
and
the
we can see
source.
that you
2
have
gold per
3
turn for
economic
unique
points and
resources. That
3
doesn't seem
science
like a
points,
huge
which are the
amount,
most that
again.
you can earn in those categories, which means you completed those legacy paths. You have 0 points in cultural, though, Ed, which means that you didn't make any progress there.
Ed's
Dear
I
Ed.
was
Ed.
well. I actually said no to religion. pretty much.
Immediately
You know,
favoring him.
usually, I'm a
Ed.
big religion player, but not in this game. I was very focused
Science and
on
gold.
the Treasure Fleet
Yeah,
gameplay
yeah.
and using Songhai's unique ability to get treasure fleets from navigable river cities.
I like the cultural
that was a
Dark
big
Age, though. So Dark Age is
boon
confirmed
towards,
if you do get 0
without having a
points.
huge overseas empire,
Sure.
I was still able to finish that economic path.
Sure, and then even speaking of religion, we can see that there are some religious symbols on our cities here in the background, so it is still around here in the modern age.
He's not happy with
but
that.
because you got no progress in the cultural legacy path, you did hit a cultural dark age. So we have this option available to us, cultural dark age, which all dark age options.
Dark ages
give
are
you a
separated
huge
into each
boost
individual
to that
victory type?
Yeah, and you can
victory
choose
type
them if you
or
like.
human legacy path type in the
Nice.
next age at some kind of penalty. The other
Minus
penalty that
50%
comes with them
influence
that
is
they
bad with
consume
this leader
all of your
choice,
other
though.
points. So if we were to select this, we can see that it zeroes
I can
out
see
all
that,
of our
yeah.
points here. They're all spent on this option. That's a big switch from picking lots of small
can't
individual
spend
bonuses
your
to this
stuff
really
on
big chunky thing
anything
that might
else if you
really
take the Dark
revolutionize
Age,
our
though.
gameplay.
It's an all
we
or
are not
nothing.
going to pick this today. We just wanted to show that. Instead, we're going to keep those points and we're going to start
I don't
assigning them
know.
out to
You showed off
the
monasticism
different
pretty good
options
at
that we
Civ
have
Gives,
here.
so-
So we're going to get some attribute points. You did get the treasure fleet golden age because you completed that path. I don't want that one there. We're going to go with resources and an economic point.
Well, you can
and that's
retain
gonna
your
allow you just
universities,
one
look at
golden
that.
age option. You
3
got the-
science
the
per
economic
turn
one
for each
and the
quarter
science
is
one.
huge.
The science one.
Actually, no,
lets
quarters are
universities
they're the double
stay
improved,
active
aren't
and
they?
relevant
Okay, that
in
might
this
not be
new
as
age,
good.
which would give
I
us
was
not
thinking
2
building
but
for a second.
3 active science buildings, which is huge. So we're going to go ahead and pick that.
You should have a good amount of those,
And then we
though.
want to move our capital. And you talked about that you started founding
That's
some
2
cities
different
over
eras,
in
too.
the New
Yeah.
World. Timbuktu is one that you've put out in the ocean, makes a really good midway point. So we're going to choose Timbuktu as our new capital. And that will
Oh,
upgrade
Washington
to
appears.
Everyone having the
DC.
power to move capitals
So
is
remember
so
those
interesting
words
to
that
me.
Carl just
It's really
went
cool.
over there,
36
artifacts
population
and
again. You can see
explorers.
that
They're
this
gonna
is
come
the
up in just a
power
moment
of
when we talk
towns
about the
and how much
cultural
food
legacy
they
path
throw into your
in
capital. We're
modern.
going to see some really big
I was actually
cities.
able to do well in the science victory in the previous age, which is the Enlightenment legacy path.
16
because you can see I had a lot
settlement
of
cap as
Egyptian
well. So you can
wonders.
see people are worried about the
in
game not being
both my
particularly
main
wide.
cities.
16 cities is
Also
wider than a
great
lot of people
adjacency
play.
bonuses from some of
That's
those
yeah,
navigable
no, that's
river
super
and
nice.
coastal
That's super
tiles.
good to call out.
And
'cause,
so
like,
that's how you
yeah,
win
16 cities.
Enlightenment is very, very powerful
Yeah.
individual urban tiles.
Like, that's gonna be- that's
with
gonna be
large adjacency
hard to
bonuses.
fill.
And,
What a
that
rogue
worked out very
capital.
nicely for me.
So you can see Washington,
So
D.C.
wait,
over
that's
there.
actually really
Yes,
interesting.
the
When you
former
change
Timbuktu,
civilizations,
it
if you
has
move
now
capital to the other
rebranded
continents,
itself.
Yep.
and all your new cities, like
So,
it literally,
we're
you
ready
can
to
make
start
it
making some
feel
choices
a lot
here at the
more
start of
of
the
my
new age. Let's
civilizations
go
over
ahead and
here
dive
now.
into our
Especially if your
tech tree.
previous cities had conquered, and like now you're literally a
And
different
as
Here's the
we
tree.
see our tech tree
different
here,
lands.
Here's
this
the
is a
tree.
lot of
Industrialization.
really
We've
great
got
modern
flight,
age tech. So Ed, why don't you tell us a little
modern
bit about modern
armor,
age?
aerodynamics.
Okay, so if you looked very closely at our
Planes are
screen
kind
before,
of
you could see
near
that the
the
modern
end.
age starts in the year
Rocketry.
1750. So that's just at the point in time
Future
where
tech.
Seems,
monarchies are starting
Right,
to
so
really
it's literally
challenged
just the
and,
advent of rocketry and then the
crumbling under the
age
pressure
ends.
of maybe the French Revolution or the American Revolution.
60s
Holy
tech.
cow, you're
really
right.
evolving towards the modern
So that
nation
definitely
state
means
with
like the
big,
game probably
large
ends at the moon
national
landing, right?
armies, sort
Like
of the
probably
time of
just
Napoleon
satellite and then
is
moon landing. They
just
might have
about
some.
upon
They might
us.
actually have some other
And
things
so we're
in
gonna
there, right?
start
that
there
are like
early in the
preliminary
19th
to the
century
actual satellite.
and move towards
Maybe.
the back half of the 19th century where we have the Industrial Revolution kicking in. So you can see at the bottom of our
Beginning
tech
of the
tree, we have
Industrial Revolution.
industrialization,
Okay.
above that combustion, above that urbanization.
Rail station.
These are all the
There
sort
it
of
is.
later 19th century technologies
It
that are really going
upgrades
to
any
change
roads
the way commerce
that have a rail
happens,
station
what we're gonna
into
be doing with
railroads.
our resources. We'll see
And it
how
lets you
factories
teleport
and
between
things like
rail
factories and
stations.
railroads
So it's
are gonna
like
become
Mongolia's
crucially
building.
important. But there's a lot more
Oh.
to the modern age after that. This is just a chock full of content age. We have to proceed through the world wars. We have to get
these
to
trees
flight.
have been
we have to turn
expanded a little
the
bit.
early flight
They're a little more fleshed out than they
experiments
were before.
into aircraft. They're going
Yeah,
to be used for
the tech
military
tree
purposes.
seems a little small to me,
Eventually, we
but
get
there's
to
so much in
rocketry.
the
All that's
cultural
within this age.
trees.
We'd love to
These
have our
leader
ages
trees
with
are a
a
lot
big
bigger than they were.
climactic conflict between the players.
Certainly,
And
they
that's
all
the idea
looked
of the game, is
identical.
It's getting bigger and bigger
the
and
modern
bigger,
age
right?
of the World Wars really fits that bill very nicely.
Plus one settlement
So
and that just at the
that's
bottom
what we
there.
decided. We decided we have so much content. This is the fullest age we
15%
have.
reduction towards
It's
military
already
units.
set up sort
Cheeky
of
cow.
perfectly in terms of the way the history lays out. And we're just going to say that's our third age. That's perfect for the end of a civilization game. Now, there's some content after that that players are familiar with. The Cold War kicks in, and obviously history has marched on to the present. That's not something you're going to see in Civ 7 at launch.
Bureaucratic monarchy,
But we'll
elected
be talking
republic.
about
Oh yeah,
clues for
these
how
are
that
not
gets into the game
modern
when it's
systems.
the right time.
Lots of room
He
to
just
grow, for
confirmed.
sure. And we do only have 2 hours.
You're going to go to
but I'm
the
really
Cold
excited to
Age
show
and
off some
then
of the
or
techs that you
the
talked
Cold
about,
War,
like
and
railroads
you're
and
not going to see
factories
anything
as well.
past that on launch.
Absolutely.
On launch. There you go.
But first,
you caught
so
it.
You're
have
right.
some-
They're
You
they're
got it.
absolutely going to have a
I think
fourth
we're ready
age.
to
They
get
just
to
wanted to do
Civic.
3 at the start.
Yep.
So if we
To
open our
really
Civics
nail
tree, we're able
down
to see what
the
that looks like
3
for the modern
age, to get the age system right before
Absolutely
they
called it.
expand it.
Critical. So natural history
That's I
is the
approve.
civic
That's cool.
that lets you launch into exploring your past, gets you the Explorer unit, who is our unit that's involved with the archaeology system. Similar to Civ 5 and 6, which had archaeology systems, we have one here. It also takes note of where things occurred in previous ages, and there's a
Awesome.
recording of that's going on in the background, and that information is being dug back up
13
here sort of
food on
by
a
the
grocer.
game
Wow.
to present things
Yields
to the
go
players.
big.
Okay.
But you have to research natural history to get into
They
that.
just need like big
legacy
fat
path.
icons.
And what
That's all they need.
natural history does is it lets you build the Explorer unit and then send those explorers to either universities that were created during the Exploration Age or museums that you may have created here in the modern
Okay,
age.
museums.
And those are places where the knowledge of those ancient antiquity civilizations and the Exploration Age,
Feels like the antiquity
conflicts,
system is
all
going
that
to
is sort
be
of stored in
the
those
system in this
universities and
age,
museums.
replacing sort of
And that's
like
a place
the
where an
treasure
explorer
and
can go and
religion
figure out
systems of the
where
last
are the
age, I
right
think.
places to dig to get artifacts
Interesting.
to help towards
Yeah,
this
I
cultural
like
legacy
how
path
much
are.
you have to look backwards
And
as
then
much as you
can
look
also
forward.
receive them in a few other ways. We just placed one of our new buildings, a grocer, down up here on this floodplains, and that gives us a new narrative event, which if we open up, we can see is talking about discovering an archaeological treasure. And if we look over at that
Why is
choice,
the
it says
smiley
story
face
continues.
a victim of murder?
What we will receive if we select this. It
It's
tells us
mystery.
exactly. It tells us later on there will be an additional bit of story that comes up from this, and that will come with its own choice. Or we can just go ahead and opt out and get a lot of happiness right now. I think we'll go ahead and select to get this archaeological treasure in the future.
Our narrative director, Kat, she put together a really incredible dev diary on this system too, so definitely encourage everybody to go check that
Happy
out.
murder. Yay.
And then looks like we
He
got
has
some resource assignments
249
available.
happiness right now.
Yeah.
So let's
So
talk about
a lot.
Feels
resources
like a lot.
in this
That's a lot.
age. Resources have always
So they've
been
all
divided into 3 categories: bonus,
refreshed
city,
factory
and
resources,
empire. We talked about
interestingly.
those in the antiquity stream. We won't talk about them here because they
City,
function
bonus, and
the same
factory.
way.
Interesting.
In the exploration age, we had a special type of
So all resources
resource
are
called the treasure
simplified,
resources.
but then they actually
we
broke
do
it out
not have
again.
treasure resources here. Instead, we have
It's definitely
another
getting
new
more
category,
exciting, and
what
the
we call
bonuses
factory
for each
resources.
resource are way
Factory
higher this
resources are
age than
one
they
that are
have
going to
been
be
before.
especially useful
This
once
was
we hit the Industrial
100%
Revolution.
Monopolies Incorporation
And we bring
play-tested
factories
for this.
online,
Yep.
and we want
Yep.
to produce manufactured goods out of those factories. The way that works is your cities with your factories have resource slots. Just like Carl's showing here, he's filling his resource slots with the city and bonus resources. But once a factory's online, we can take those same slots and fill them with one of these factory goods. And each factory good has a unique bonus that applies empire-wide. The more goods you can pump into that
Nice.
factory, the more times those bonuses will stack up for you. So some very powerful effects
This is
you can get out
Monopolies
of that.
mode. You've called
And
it,
that's
yeah.
also going to help
Yeah,
towards one of the
absolutely.
legacy paths that we're going to see
Every
real soon.
single game
Let's go ahead and
mode
take a
in
look at it
Civ
now.
6
Okay.
has been a playtest.
So the Age Progress screen is set up the same way as it was before with the 4 different legacy paths. The first one we're going to talk about is this
victory.
Railroad Tycoon path that is about getting the proper factory resources into those towns with factories.
You have to
and
use rail to get
applying
the economic
manufacturing
victory.
process to them.
You have
So
to
it
use
looks
rail
like-
to get
oh my
the
God,
victory.
there's
Ryan's
multiple
first
subdivisions
victory
on this
type.
legacy path. Some of these legacy paths before only showed like 7 divisions, and this one has just hundreds of them.
Build a
And that's
rail station
because of
is
the
a
way this
thing.
particular legacy path is
So,
scored.
rail
if I
station
have
factories,
5
products
resources,
is kind of the core
so
of
we're looking at
economic
cotton
victory
as
then.
one of
Yep.
our factory resources. If I have 5 cotton and I put them in a city with a factory that has 5 resource slots, what that's going to do is it's going to give me the cotton bonus 5 times over, but each turn that sits there in place, I'll get 5 points towards this victory.
Right.
So imagine
basically
you
you
have
just need to
5
spam
cities set
factories.
up like that, and factories can be in towns as well. So you can actually, it's not inconceivable to have 8 to 10 factories going at once.
As long as they're connected by rail.
Right.
Right.
All has to be connected back to by rail. or you can get islands connected if you have set up ports. The right way. But no matter what, all those factories, if they're connected in, they're scoring you points towards this victory each turn, so that the 500 points you need is not as.
It is
as
an
crazy as it
alternative
sounds.
turtle build that you can play. It doesn't need
so
to be
one thing you'll see on
really
these screens
wary.
is
I like
the
that.
far right lower corner. There's
Focus
now
on
a big
economic
victory,
production,
symbol there, and some
yeah, you could
details
spawn
there. We'll be
military
going into
factories.
exactly what those mean
Great
later.
banker spawns in the
But
capital.
keep in mind that in the previous ages, you were trying to get to the right-hand edge of a legacy path to earn those Golden Age cards we were talking about. Now, getting to the end of a legacy path unlocks a victory for you.
Right.
All right, so let's look at the
Unlocks
culture
a
path.
victory.
We've alluded to that quite a bit with
culture
the
victory.
talk about the explorer.
15
Graphic society.
Now, the
artifacts.
first thing you have to do is study natural history and then train one of him and have one of your explorers. That person should go out and research where the artifacts are and then go out to the sites.
So explorers
artifacts
instead
are
of
housed in
archaeologists.
museums
Yep.
that can be built once you research natural history. And once you get to 15 of those, then you finish that legacy path.
I do have a quick question from chat. Puri710 asks, in these presentations, a lot of real-world conflicts are referred
Thank
to
you
as
very
if they're
much,
canon.
Jacob. I really appreciate
Are we
it.
going
I
to
know
go into
railroads.
guaranteed conflicts based on history?
Wait, so that doesn't mean
So-
it's not like a tourism-based culture
The way
victory?
the
it's
game
just
is set up
have
is
the
no
things,
different
yeah.
than
Artifacts?
any previous Civ
Interesting.
game is. There's no scripting of the events or the conflicts.
I guess
It's
tourism
all
has always been very
the
confusing.
Dynamic interrelation of the leaders, the friction caused by our diplomatic system. We've shown off the diplomatic system before. We'll show it off again here, where we're talking about like what the relationship scores are. There are some things we do to sort of nudge the game towards those conflicts, and that's not any different than how ideologies were portrayed in Civ 5 or Civ 6.
Someone just called
where
Bucharest.
If I
Call out
chose to be a
Bucharest.
Democrat and someone else chose to be communist or fascism, that ideological friction just caused us naturally to dislike each other, and eventually your AI opponents are going to go to war over that. There's another incentive to go to war here on the military legacy path, and we'll get to that soon.
Got it. So it looks like we're heading
Yeah,
toward
it doesn't
an
look like
independent
there's a tourism
power.
system.
It's not on screen.
So over here,
Yeah,
this is
I think they
distant
simplified,
lands, and
culture
there's
victory,
a lot of
on purpose,
mostly
which is
open territory, but at the end of the very first
fair,
turn,
but
you
it's
have
also my
independent
favorite 'cause
powers
it's the most
spawn
complex,
into the
so-
map. And
well, I'll have to see
while
what it
this
actually
looks
feels like.
Wide open for us to settle.
Is that the Grand
it
Canyon
did
down
get
there?
A bunch
Yep.
of independent powers here.
Nice.
America really likes to expand into this kind of open territory and claim lots of resources.
America likes to
They get
expand?
gold
Oh, really?
every time they improve a resource. So this is really juicy for us as America, and we really want to go and take as much of that as possible. Here we have the beautiful Grand Canyon
Nice.
natural wonder, so we're going to go try to settle
Isabella.
that.
No
But
Isabella.
in order to settle it, we first have to clear out the independent powers. So I'm moving an army commander into that area to start.
America
that
clearing
process.
out independent
And
powers?
also,
What?
went
I
ahead
know,
and purchased
right?
a
So weird.
prospector, which is America's unique
like our-
civilian
our-
unit.
our-
A
our mom was
prospector
like
can
England
go
or something.
outside of the normal radius of a city, which is three tiles.
It's
It can
interesting
go
seeing
to
independent
4 or
powers
even
being
5
one tile
tiles
only
away
instead
Yeah,
of
really
to
interesting.
how
improve
these states are.
land resources, acquiring them as part of that city, placing an improvement there, and giving you that resource. And that still gives you the free gold for America's ability.
That seems
Plus,
powerful.
Harriet Tubman's prospectors can move over vegetated terrain.
Which we'll see here in just a second, because this tile is vegetated
Yeah.
and normally would stop our movement, and we're going to be able to go right through it.
Harriet's going to be an unfortunately good leader for war.
We got a celebration here.
I
so
feel
we're
like
gonna
any
go ahead
leader
and
probably will
pick
be.
that effect.
Yeah.
I chose
Any
authoritarianism
American
as our government,
leader.
so we can do either military unit
Even though it's like
production
Ben
or
Franklin
combat strength.
and
because we're
Harriet
about to
Tubman,
start
who are
fighting
not
this independent
military
power, I'm gonna pick
whatsoever.
combat strength.
That makes sense.
And
Well,
that also gives us
So look,
policy slots.
here
so
you
we'll
can
go ahead
see
and
the
slot in a new
old
policy
legacy
here.
cards
While
from
you pick
both
this, another quick
civilizations that
question
they've
from
played
chat.
before. So
Van
they all
Harian
come
asks,
over.
will AI be able to trigger the advance to the next stage?
So all players sort of combine together to move the game towards the next stage.
Yeah, there you go. Go
The
through it.
2% progress we're seeing here, obviously we're at just at the
I
very
missed what these
dawn of the
prospectors
modern
do.
age. But each turn, that progress
Develop
ticks up.
resources on the map.
But also,
send them back to America.
anytime one of those milestones, one of those
So they're like a
big,
builder.
achievement
Except they can
bars
go anywhere.
on one of the legacy
Mm-hmm.
paths is encountered by any
Interesting.
player for the first time, that provides a major boost to the age progress, and that can be triggered by either the AI opponents or by the human players. So if you're sitting around not doing anything and you're letting the AI,
The game will keep going.
yeah, history will leave you behind.
Right. Seeing the animations up close is so cool.
And
I like the
once
fact
again,
that once the
combat
fighting
continues to
starts,
play
it
out
doesn't stop
over
as
the rest
well.
of
You
the
can
turn.
see them fighting continually.
Yeah.
Not doing extra damage over and
Especially
over
when
again,
No,
but
because
the
it's the
they'll
animation
have like
because-
multiple.
So we do have
people,
another
like, face
diplomatic
each other,
action
too.
to respond to. So we'll
it's
go
gonna be
ahead and
interesting
resolve that.
playing my first game.
So
with-
whenever any
without
diplomatic
the fast
action comes
animation.
up, we have the 3 options: support, accept, or reject. Supporting or rejecting always costs influence, and this happens for pretty much any diplomatic action that occurs. We released a short on the diplomacy system yesterday. If you haven't seen it, make sure to check that out. So this
If you
is an
reject
endeavor.
it, though,
So it's
Machiavelli
positive for
gets
me, but if it
bonuses.
were a sanction, let's say, which is negative for me, I would still have the option to reject that sanction, which costs me influence, so there's an opportunity cost there. But I do have options in how I want to interact with this. I'm going to go ahead and pick accept, which is free, because I want to save our influence for doing
It's
some
interesting how much they
espionage
brought
as Harriet
back,
Tubman.
like research agreements.
She gets plus
and
100%
cultural agreements
influence
in that
It's gonna be
towards
really interesting.
espionage actions, and we're going to go ahead and take an espionage action against Xerxes.
But it's like
who we
not
are,
tied to your gold
Not
or
friendly
something.
with.
Not
like
friendly
gifting
with.
gold. So, it
so
means
here we can see
it's
all
a different
of the options
currency, which means
available to
I'll
us.
actually want to do it.
There's all of these endeavors
Oh,
and sanctions. We
Xerxes.
can try to
Why?
improve our relationship
Why
with him,
being
for
like
example.
this?
But
Xerxes looks
by doing
awesome.
espionage, this is a hidden option. All these others, the leader will get to see what we're
Counter-spy.
doing, and so will every other leader in the
Espionage.
game. But espionage is secret.
Steal
There is a
government
reveal
secrets.
chance. So if we were revealed while doing this action,
Full stealing
the
tech,
leader
not even
would
the
get a
Eureka,
bunch
just the
of
whole
grievances
text,
against
back to
us
Civ
and a
5.
lot of free influence that they
I
can
don't
then
think there are
use on their
Eurekas
own,
anymore, right?
Oh, no.
It's just the
actions
tech
of
or the
any type.
mastery.
But we
That
get
means
to
the-
have these at
the
a much
micro
cheaper cost. You can
of
see these
focusing
are 40
production
and 80,
early
whereas
instead
the
of science
other
is
types
kind
are
of gone.
much,
It's
much
like
more
you
expensive.
actually just
than
beelining
trying to
science
do
is
those.
going to be
That's all
back.
due to Tubman's unique
That's because
ability,
of
right?
Tubman's unique ability, yeah.
She's
So
basically got half cost in this whole section. Of the
exactly,
display.
yeah. So we're going to go ahead and steal technological advancement. He'll have no idea that we're doing this unless we get revealed, and he has no recourse. Like I said, with endeavors and sanctions, you can choose to reject it. This just happens.
100% success
Set
rate, by the
up a
way, so they're not going to
Unless
fail.
he sets up a counter
Like,
spy.
you-
A counter
you
spy
at least
will
get something
increase
out
the
of it,
time
which
takes
is
to
It just
nice.
gets
resolve an
revealed or
espionage
not.
action and increase that reveal chance.
So we have a 100% chance.
We have 100%. So this is going to happen no matter what. It's just whether or not he discovers it and then gets bonuses to himself.
That's
as
a really
result.
good call.
Much more useful.
That's
Yeah.
so much better.
Yeah.
So we may not be able to play the full 10 turns to see what comes out of this.
Right.
But what were to happen were we to be successful?
Ursa, when you
So
think
in the
about
case of
questions
steel
to spam in the
technology, we
chat
would
too.
get
Or
a
not spam,
free
just
technology
tag them
out
in
of
chat.
that. I believe it's the cheapest one.
I just want to know more
that
about
he's
rail.
discovered that we did not. It did say on the tooltip there. I didn't read the whole thing, but for those who will
So
go back
Carl,
and
would you
screenshot it.
save any of your influence for the other two city-states here, playing this out, or
I think that as America, we would just take over all of these. We have
I was gonna
lots
say,
of
you're
available
playing America.
settlement limit.
Of course
We
you
start
are.
at
Yeah.
16 at the beginning.
America is
of,
going to be one of those civs that is
modern.
going to have
so
a high.
we have
high
tons
cap.
of available settlements.
It's gonna be
that
really
we can
interesting going
create.
from like Rome
If we
into
take out
like
over all
England
these,
into America.
independent
You have
powers
so
and
many
then send
cities
out
if you do
settlers
something
will
like
get
that. Or
lots of
sorry,
I would
Normans,
play
I
it
think,
differently.
right?
I would
Or-
keep at least one of them.
You keep one.
I think probably. I mean, there are 4 of them here.
No
I think
spy units
one of them
needed
is worth
to
it
be,
just
like,
to
built.
get the
It's just
suzerain bonus
espionage
from the city-states.
and
We
currency.
might want to
Interesting. Yeah.
strategically pick. These all look like militaristic ones.
They
aren't
are all military ones.
So it doesn't matter which one we keep it alive. But some of the bonuses are very, very strong. And just to remind people, we've shown what city-state bonuses look like in previous ages, but here in the modern age, they're even more powerful and effective than in any of the previous ages. So there's something you definitely don't want to discount.
I think it can be a real race with other players, right? To see who can get to the city-states first, too.
Racing the city-states, but to
ranking up
kill
the
them instead
commander.
of
Yep.
actually
Yep,
taking them
just
over.
I know.
It's fun.
What is this? The Civ
I have a
gift?
question, another question from chat. Can you speed up how long spies take to complete one of the actions?
Not sure there are any abilities I'm aware of that do that. So I think it's pretty much, it's shown there. And yeah, it's
Perhaps the game settings would be the
well,
answer.
they absolutely do change based on game speed for
Right.
sure. But we have fertile
go.
ground for
Show off
all
the
sorts
movement.
of bonuses to be
I
applied
have been
to
wanting
all sorts of civilizations
this
as the
prospector thing
content
for
starts
so
rolling out for
long.
this
When you
game.
want
So,
one resource
I'm
that's
sure
not in
our
your
content
land, and you
team's
just want
paying
to get
attention
it.
right
No
now.
one set a
and
whole
We get
city
some
for
good
You may
it.
ideas
see
from our
exactly.
Which
you
I
may
thought they
see
fixed
ideas
just
like
with
that
towns.
creeping
I
in
think
very
just
soon.
having towns is enough
So
to
our
satisfy me,
prospector's
but this is
ready.
also interesting.
You can see that this silk tile is outside of our normal 3-tile
this is
range.
the prospector.
But if we improve it with the prospector, we still gain that resource. It is now added
Wait,
to our
4
resource
tiles away?
pool. We
Yep.
can
Part
assign
of the
it,
city?
and we
Yep.
got 100
So
gold.
prospectors
for doing
gobble
so.
it
And that's
from a
an
distance.
important resource right now because that's going to speed up our culture production, which is going to get
they
us to
say there's
national
a limit
history
of how
before
far you
those
can send
other
a prospector?
players. If we're having to go for that legacy path,
I don't think
the
they
faster
did,
you
but
get
it
to
looks
make
like it's
natural
adjacent
history,
tiles.
The sort of better jump start.
You can do it
have in
outside
that
of your
game.
usual range.
I think, however, we're ready to move on to another save.
Yeah, you want to hop into save 2?
Sounds
All
good.
right, let's do it. But before that, we actually have another first look for you guys. So here is that one for Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin,
Hey.
here we go.
More America.
Summon the chins.
Strategy is not idle amusement.
From humble printer to founding father, Benjamin Franklin made everlasting contributions to science and revolutionary U.S. politics. Leaders who follow Franklin's tireless work ethic will find a friend, so long as your politics align.
So he's going to hate 2/3 of the
Franklin's
people on the
curious
map.
and industrious nature offers
wow.
incredible bonuses towards science and growth. And his reputation as a socialite extends to Franklin's outgoing diplomatic
Okay,
practice.
he looks powerful.
Juggle friendly conversations for kind rewards. Consider pairing Franklin with America in the modern age for wild resource bonuses.
I'm going to have
So
so much
long
fun
as
with America.
you claim
Yep.
it first. Or choose a different path all your
Okay,
own.
so he has
But whatever
50%
you
production
build, remember,
towards buildings.
to build
50%
something,
extra
you
production
believe it.
towards
Is
buildings.
that what it
And then
I saw the science on
extra science on all buildings as well. Wow.
per era, so it's going to be plus
Yeah.
3
That
per
was
building
our
in
second
the
first
modern
look at
era.
the stream for Benjamin
he's
Franklin. I know we've teased him that was our first time kind of showing off some of the cool abilities, and we're going to show it off in gameplay too. But let me just first ask, why Ben Franklin to Civ 7?
Well, we are really going on an East Coast tour this year. We have the local hero for the sort of Baltimore, Maryland region we showed before. We're going up the road just a little ways to Philadelphia, and there is nobody more beloved in the city of Philadelphia than Benjamin Franklin. So if you look at his accomplishments, it's just amazing. He was a diplomat. He was a politician who was in the Continental Congress. He was an inventor, he was a scientist, he was the first postmaster general of the United States. The list goes on and on and on. The cool fact that I just picked up reading about him a little bit last night is that really shows his diplomatic impact is he's the only person to have signed probably the 4 most important documents that were part of the founding of America. So he signed the Declaration of Independence. He signed the treaty with France that brought them into the war. He signed the Treaty of Paris that ended the war and where Britain accepted American independence. And then he signed the U.S. Constitution. He was the oldest member of the delegation still at the U.S. Constitution. So he was just...
He lived 10 lives.
He lived 10 lives, had his hand in everything.
So why are you
we've
still
had
in your
great
basement?
leaders of America before. We've had Jefferson, we've had Washington. But you can
Franklin
put
has been one of the
a
most
very
important men in
good
American history
argument
that
together
wasn't
that
a
Franklin
president.
had
Yeah.
as much
Yeah.
of an impact
He's
as
like an
any one
obvious
of them.
choice.
So now he gets to be a leader in Civ. And what's cool is he's so good at 2 different parts of a Civ game. He's great at the diplomacy, but he's great at the science. And
He's very
we've had
good
him
at the science.
overtuned on the science side of
And
things.
also the gold and the
dev
production, because
team
you can
has
build everything faster.
shake their fist at Ben Franklin like I was
America's
going
always
great in
gonna
this
be
game,
some
but Ben
tech lead in
Franklin's
every Civ
science
game.
abilities rolled over me. So we've had to actually pull back some of his abilities a little bit, but we'll let Carl dive in and
I love that.
show us
They made him
exactly,
too powerful.
what the cool abilities we have associated with him are.
So Ben Franklin has the first American, which is sort of the title that he's referred to as, and he gets science on production buildings, and then he builds production buildings faster. So you really want to pump out as many production buildings as
50%
possible
production
with
towards
Ben Franklin,
production
and then that
buildings.
equals
Production
science.
buildings and
So
science on
by
production
doing
buildings. So
something
you
you're
want to
probably gonna be doing
specifically
anyway,
go for
he just
factories
gets
and
even
stuff, and you get
stronger.
rewarded on science
And then he
for
also
it.
has really unique interactions with the diplomacy
so it's not
system,
all
which we'll show
buildings.
off
Fine,
here in a
fine, fine,
moment. He gets science from active endeavors, not sanctions, just endeavors, and not espionage, that he has started himself or that he has chosen to support. And recall that
2 endeavors at the same type available could be interesting.
Else's
I could see some
endeavor
stacking
that they propose to do.
bonuses going
but
on
if
there.
he does that, he gets science from
That's
doing
like
so.
the
And then he can
research
also
agreements
have
with
Yeah,
cultures
or like
endeavors
open
of the
borders
same
or
type
open
back at a
markets, stuff like
time.
that.
Yeah,
Normally, you
as
can
long as you have
only
the diplo favor to do
one.
that, which
So
he's
if
gonna have
I were
bonuses to
do-
that, so he
let's
probably
just
can.
go ahead and
That's
dive
gonna
right
be-
into
yeah,
that.
it's
So
gonna be pretty
we're very friendly with Ashoka here. So we're going to do an endeavor with them. And we already have some active.
You
That's
already,
why.
yeah, set
So
that
we
up
have
right
we have a research collaboration up right now. So if we switch over to Confucius, we can create another one. So normally you could only have one of
These are
these
good.
up at a single
Influence
time.
is gonna be
Now,
such a
if
valuable
Confucius were
resource.
to propose
12 sign per
an
turn,
endeavor
other
with
leaders
us,
receive 6 per
we can
turn.
have that
Both
same
leaders
type
receive
active
18
with
per
somebody
turn.
else.
If it's supported.
We're
Holy
able to
cow,
have
okay.
them available because we've opted into somebody else's, and we can have one of our own. But Ben Franklin can have 2 of the same that he has proposed to other players. So by selecting this here, we get
This is going to
that
make
as
diplomatic
well.
favor actually worth
And
it
unlike
in
our
the game.
last live
Really
stream,
worth
we
it.
are much friendlier with Confucius.
You're not just going to
this
sell it to
time.
the AI every day. Like
We are, but one thing we didn't
Plane.
really talk about
Yep,
earlier
planes.
is we
You
talked
can
a
see
little
him
bit about how
researching
the
them in
tech
the
tree
top
set
left
up.
as well.
We touched on the civics tree and started diving into the beginning of it
He was
with
playing
the natural
Greece
history
beforehand,
civic.
wasn't he?
But there's a really
then went
important
Norman.
civic early in that
Interesting.
tree that we might want to look at right now because it's going to set the stage for everything we're talking about in this save. And that's the
Militarism.
political theory civic. You can see everything channels into it. You've got to go through that political theory civic. And once
Unlocks
you have
ideology
finished
trees.
it, it's going to
Interesting.
unlock 3
Interesting.
3 culture branch trees. They're called the ideology
Was this in
trees.
earlier eras,
It's a
or is it
democracy
just
tree, a
unique?
No, just
fascism
modern.
tree,
Modern
and a
era.
communism tree.
So these are the American
So
civics. These are the
every
unique ones
leader
to
at
America.
some point will get through political
Then
theory,
democracy,
and then they
fascism,
will
communism.
choose one of those trees to start researching. As soon as you put 1 turn of research into those trees, you have locked into that ideology, and that's going to be
culture and
you know,
diplomacy
the
for
political
democracy.
thinking, the block that you were
Okay,
following
so
for the rest of the game.
you can't
In
switch
our current game, our
ideologies,
good friend
like Civ
Ashoka
5.
Nope.
has chosen democracy just like we have. We've already finished democracy. We're working on liberalism, or can work on liberalism here soon.
I would have loved to have seen a monarchist.
But the other leaders in this game, only one of them has picked an ideology. That's Xerxes. And
Pal Xerxes.
yeah, Xerxes is a communist right now, and as
course he
American
is.
Democrat, you know, we're going to question that at this point in time in history, and so we're going to go and figure out what we need to do to combat Xerxes. In just a few
22
moments here.
settlement
We'll
limit
show
at the
that
moment.
off,
Did you
but
see that?
quick question from
again,
Great Knight
huge
J.
amount of
How
space
does
available.
the ideology democracy differ from governments?
So we have had our research team who has a bunch of historians on board sort of talk about the fact that you know, governments and democracies can be kind of looked at in 2 different ways, and we have actually split apart democracy from a government type this time. Now the government types, do you want to show which government we chose here? We chose authoritarianism in the previous save. We're in
Okay,
a bureaucratic
interesting.
monarchy here. This is another
So we
one
are
of the
still a
choices.
monarchy. Interesting.
So,
Bureaucratic monarchy.
you know, a bureaucratic
Yeah, so it's,
monarchy could be following
so this
a
is
democratic,
democratic
monarchy.
Yeah.
ideology. It could be
Yeah,
following a
constitutional
fascist
monarchy,
This is gonna be
effectively.
interesting
Yeah.
difference.
Governments can be linked to the different ideologies.
Ben is a
They're
king.
not a strict
But Ben is
tie
not
like
a
there had been in
Khan.
some of our previous
That's the
games.
important thing.
So let's go ahead and start taking a look at our map here. We can see that we have a bunch of different city names from across several cultures. You want to talk about what got us to
This
this
looks like
point?
Norman to me.
So this is a different save game. It's not the one that we were playing
Huge
before. I
cities,
was
man. Look
talking
at
about
this.
starting
51
as Egypt.
pop towards
we
the
have
end of the game.
chosen
Wow.
sort of more of a
Lots of
traditional
specialists
Western
going on.
civilization path to America. This game was played by Sean Wilson, who everyone's been seeing on our shorts, and he set it up that we're going to go with the Greek to Norman to American pathway through history, following that
Interesting.
with Ben Franklin.
Hastings
so you can
is an
see
English city, isn't it?
Athens is on a lake
yes,
here.
it is.
It's a huge city
Hastings
with all sorts
then
of
where the
world
world
invasion
wonders
of England hit.
established
Considered
for it.
too.
Normans are like English, right? I'm not
And
super
you can
Normans
see
conquered
that
England,
There's an
right, to
Acropolis
kind of make it England,
from
yeah.
our Greek heritage, which is their unique quarter where we put 2 buildings together. Just 2 tiles west of that, we have
This is where you can see all of the
dungeon,
old stuff.
unique quarter
Moat
from
and
the
Bailey's
Normans,
awesome.
which is a
It
Monty
looks
and
really
Bailey
cool.
bind together.
Yeah.
I love the moat that goes around it.
It's
just
really cute.
That's got to be
Dude,
my favorite.
you need
It's
so
unique
many
quarter.
castles.
But we've got all
in a
these
Civ
little
game.
wonders sprinkled
I
around here
want
too.
to see
We've
the
got the
castles.
Colosseum, we've got
The
the
rail
Oracle,
yards on
it's-
the right as
pyramids
well.
are in the background. It's just
Spotted the
all
rail.
right here
Look at that.
in Athens.
Do you see the rail going out the city in the bottom left?
That's not where.
Yes.
We've kept our capital.
From the
Sean
aerodrome that's
moved
there,
it
too.
to the east,
And there's the,
further out
Monument of
towards the
Axum,
ocean
that's the
to
one
get ready
where-
for the exploration age. So the city of Rouen is here at the where the river spills out into the ocean.
I'm calling it
and
now.
that was where
You're
his
going to want
Norman
more
capital
space
was.
between your cities than we have done
All sorts
in
of
previous
great
games.
tiles there.
Like 5,
we'll see
6
in a
tiles,
second
not
that
4.
he's got a lot of specialists down on those
These things
tiles because he
sprawl.
was going for the Enlightenment victory path there. A few more wonders. We can see Angkor Wat. We can see yet another Mahdi and Bailey complex. So
I'm gonna have
Sean's
so
done
many.
some
I'm
great
gonna go
work
Normans
here in
and
setting
go
up
so
some
many Moat and
amazing
Baileys.
cities.
This is my
The
first
other
day.
thing I like to point out is how diverse our city name set has become. So we have the Greek city names, we have some Norman city names. If Carl goes to the southwest, you can see some of the brand new cities that we have established as America. And so you can see this sort of
A lot of sprawl.
multicultural
And he's actually
layered
spread out quite
identity
nicely
that
there
has
as
built
well.
up over the ages. And that's what we're getting. It's very unique to our playthrough. It's not the same
you
as
seen
like
enough
everyone's
navigable
American playthrough.
rivers?
Doesn't look the same with the same set of cities.
They're not
And I think it's
everywhere.
really reflective of what you
It's kind of a
see
bit like
in the United
floodplains in
States
Civ 6.
right now in our day and age. We have a lot of English city names in the northeast of our country, but if you go to the Mississippi River area, there are French city names, New Orleans, St. Louis. If you go out to the southwest, there are Spanish city names with Los Angeles, San Francisco. There are Native American city names. Chicago is a Native American city name. It's one of the 3 largest cities in the U.S. So
A wise man once said history is built in layers.
Hey!
That is really evident
yeah,
here.
Reference.
so I love when that shows through in our game, and that's what we're seeing just with the city names.
It's awesome.
That's actually a
Speaking of
really good
things in
point.
layers. Let's go ahead and choose
it's cool.
production
I like it.
for
Tells a story
our
as well.
capital here. So
Until
we
you
have a
rename them
bunch
all.
of buildings to choose from, but a few of them really have
Cannery,
very
21
high
food.
yields, and that's because we're
300
seeing
food in Ruin.
specialist
Wow.
yields
That's-
also reflected here. This is the highest
pretty big.
projected yield for that.
These
building
numbers
can
don't
get.
even make
We're gonna
sense to
build a
me. Holy
cannery,
cow.
which has a massive 21 food here, and that would
Canneries
be
like to be like where the fishing boats are coming in,
Yeah.
and so it likes to
Extra
be near
bonuses
water.
on top as well. Another
A lot
12
of
from
buildings like to be
specialists.
near water. We should
5.
remind players that
Wow.
there pretty much are 3
This is where
main types of
specialists are gonna
adjacency
stack
Yes,
bonuses
okay.
in Civ
massively.
7. One of them
This is where they're
for
focusing big
coast
yield,
and
like
navigable
their
river
preserve
tiles.
lesson
You
is
see
in
that
specialists.
especially with the
Yep.
commercial buildings.
Buildings.
But you'll also see it with some buildings like the cannery. We have adjacencies for being next to resources, which is especially useful for scientific discovery in Civ 7. And then we have adjacencies for being next to mountains and natural wonders. So this is a case where we have had those 4 water tiles next to this one tile for 3 ages now.
Yeah.
We've really invested in it, and we've been putting as many specialists as we can on that tile.
And a question from Chad: are you able to destroy, move your own districts in Civ 7?
You overbuild.
You build over them.
So,
So whatever you
take
had in the last
buildings
age
that are
doesn't
obsolete
matter
from
anymore.
previous ages, and you build the
Unless you pick the
newest,
policy that
latest, and
lets you keep
greatest
them.
buildings
Yeah.
on top.
In some
right?
cases,
So to
yes.
some extent, you are moving things around. And here,
We could put it somewhere else.
the cannery is giving us food out of this tile,
Right.
whereas before we were replacing the guild hall. That was giving us gold from the tile.
right.
So we were moving like what
That big
types of
blue
yields we're
building
getting
on top
and,
of
and
the
so forth, but we're
tile.
not actually picking.
Is that the
buildings
guild
up.
hall?
That looks
Or
like a
the-
guild
We are
hall.
getting some yield from the guild
Ooh,
hall.
was
It's
it
a
the
big
stock
amount.
exchange?
It
It could
has
be the
been
stock exchange.
reduced.
I was trying to figure out what
But
that building was
we
in
are
the
still getting
opening
something
trailer
there.
for so
and
long.
we could choose
So,
to put the cannery
like,
on a
it's
different
right there,
tile,
it's right there.
and that would create a brand new urban district. So in a way, you can move them like that and continue to keep some of your previous buildings, but obviously the
Those
21,
yields, though.
yeah, the yields are
That's
much
a
better
huge- you
because
can't
of the
turn
specialists,
that
and the
down.
specialists are not helping the guild hall at all because its adjacency bonuses
Or the
are gone.
multiple-
so
the
by
tile- the
replacing
walls on
guild
multiple
hall with the
tiles in
cannery,
your
we're
city
gonna
is also
get a lot
just
more
fun.
yield than if we were to put
I
it down
just
here.
noticed it's a Casbah across the river,
Right.
which is not part of a Greek, Norman, American
That'll be an
heritage.
independent
but
nation thing.
Remember when you can pick up city-state allies, they might have that type of unique improvement available to us. So that's what Sean's
So
done.
you can
to-
still get
to
unique
have a
improvements from city
southern
states effectively.
part
It's
of
just
the
a different
city that
different mechanic,
is
but it's
rocking the
there.
Casbah here.
So let's go ahead and place this cannery down. And that's given us a narrative choice similar to what
narrative
happened in our
choice.
previous save.
It sounds
feels-
to me a lot of
This one is a
Beyond
little
Earth.
bit
There's
more
gonna be a lot
immediate
of them.
though. So when we take the old guild hall down to its foundations, we stumble across an older market. So this is looking back all the way to antiquity.
Right, so the market is the big economic building, the first one you encounter in antiquity. Sean was placing down the market in a very smart location with all those water bonuses. So he put it down there. Somewhere in the Renaissance period, the people here said this market's not really serving us. We now have guilds, and guilds are where the economic power of our
So I don't know why you wouldn't claim the
nation is
artifact
coming
there.
forth, and so we're going to
Doesn't
replace
seem like
this
a huge
older
cost.
market with a guild hall. And so the market was
Some
overbuilt.
choices are made to be
And
easy, I guess.
now it's very cool. Here in the modern age, we're taking out the guild hall, getting ready for the cannery, and lo and behold, our archaeologists have found something. And so we're going to go ahead and take the artifacts that are coming from sort of the previous history of the tile,
Cache of
and
precious
that's going to help us
stones.
on our cultural legacy path.
Yeah, the narrative stuff is going to be very much what it is.
So the next
sounds
thing we
like.
have
Like
here
the narrative element
is
that
command
is,
units.
You
We've
can
got a
click
couple
right
of
there if you
units
want, or
right
you
in
can
the
actually
middle
read
of
it
our
and
empire,
enjoy
ready
the immersion.
to go. We're going to move them over to a different city through one of our modern features, railroads, which I know everyone has been very excited to
A lot of
see.
people have
Yeah.
been waiting for railroads.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how industrialization happens.
Sure.
So the first thing that
railroad.
you get to is the railroad, and you get to place down rail stations. And once you have a city with rail stations, then it becomes eligible for the factories that we were talking about earlier.
Okay, so you need it for
Carl's going to
factories.
demonstrate the power of railroads here in a minute.
Yep.
So the,
But
the
we'll
buildings to the
also
right is
very
the factory,
soon get
right?
into
All
the power of
smokestacks.
factories and
Looks like
showing
it.
exactly how that works.
Yes. So here we have a rail station, and this is the core building that railroads are centered around. So a rail station is a full hex building. This is a new thing for the modern age, and that's because it is a very important tile. We really want the player to be able to find it easily and focus on it, and there's also a lot of things that are happening on that tile, so it's very important. So this is the only building that can go onto this tile. You can't pair it with another building like we see in other places. But once you have built a rail station, that is only half of the equation. You then have to build a second rail station. You have to have a destination.
yeah.
Where does it go to?
As well as a start point. Once you have done that, and you have your two rail stations up, it creates a rail connection between the two.
Automatic.
Any
Yep,
route,
between the two.
so a road between the two
That's
settlements,
so nice.
because it can be a town as well as a city, are instantly upgraded to rail. We can see
Amazing.
that there is a road here through this beautiful mountain pass, by the way. This is absolutely gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
That means that even though there's a rail station here, whatever this is going to does not have a rail station. It has not been upgraded. So that is a foreign settlement. If they were to build a rail station, this would be upgraded.
So it upgrades to other
But
people's
until
stuff
that
as well.
happens,
Yep.
That stays a road. But we can see that
Oh,
we have
ooh.
rails.
Is there
in
a
our
choice
other
in that
settlements.
matter?
Beautiful network of rails running through all of
Are
our
you gonna
farmland
instantly
out
connect your
here,
railroads to mine
and that
so
is
you can invade?
connecting
Yep.
all of our settlements together.
That's
allowing us
capitalism,
to
baby.
then transport units. So we can zoom back in, and we
Not
have a
again.
couple of our unique units. This is the American Marine, which is sitting in a dumbo
Ooh.
because it's an amphibious that
Marine
can,
unit, bringing back
be
from Civ
in
5.
water
Yep.
as well as on land, and it has a unique action called Move by Rail.
Right. Not unique action. It's a action
contextual-
that,
contextual
contextually
action.
unique for
Because it is
That's a
adjacent
good
to this
clarification.
rail station.
Yep.
So any unit that is on the rail station or adjacent to the rail station gets this move by rail option. And if I click it, let me zoom out. We can see
can
that
go to
there
any
are,
rail station you've got.
other rail stations.
So they
that
basically
we
act as a
teleport
much
to.
earlier
This
airport.
instantly
I
moves
love
the unit
that.
From that
Yeah, they took the
settlement
airport
to the one
mechanic.
that we are
And
going
they've actually
to.
made it
And-
relevant.
And we
Yeah.
want to move these
Yeah.
over here to Chicago. And if we click that tile, it instantly teleports the unit
I love
traveling
that.
by
I
rail
love that.
across our continent.
There is a 20
Railway
tile,
station
I
on the
believe
front
it is,
line.
limit to the
Teleport
rail
troops there.
transfer in
There
this
is a limit
particular
that's good,
age,
20
so,
tiles, but that's still
it's
really
not-
far.
It's still really
People
far.
wonder, can I do all the way across the map? You might have to do across the map in a
Yeah, as long
couple
as you can't do it
different
across the
stages.
sea,
Chain
too.
a few together,
Yeah,
right?
do it over a couple turns.
And sort of while we're moving these units over, we've had a few people in chat asking about tutorials, guides. I know it can seem like there's a lot lot to take in with all the different mechanics that come in. And I can answer at least part of that. We do have some guides planned.
Is that
We're
Admiral
working
on
really
the land?
closely to create
No,
some
that's a
starter guides that are
Marine.
going to help new
Oh,
players
okay.
to the game, and even some returning players get used to some of the new things coming to 7. Is there anything else you guys want to add on top of that?
So we have worked harder on our tutorial system in-game than we ever have in a previous title. We sort of
You don't want the
brushed
tutorials
past
to be
it
too good, though,
entirely in
because
the
that's
live
where we
streams,
step
'cause we
in.
sort of like to explain
Exactly.
things ourselves and don't want people to have to read through the text. That's
Slow
not
down,
something-
Ed.
But the tutorial system that has been put in Civ 7 is entirely contextual to your gameplay. So it's not like you have to read through these screens to get to the next turn. It's play the game, and our system will kind of listen to what's happening in your game and pop up dialogues to explain what you need to know at just the right time. The other thing that I play with all the time, and we do have on during this stream, is there are 4 advisors that help the player through the game, and those advisors are always looking at your game sort of in the background as well and making sure you're not making a big mistake or misstep. So we have a system called the Advisor Warning System,
This is the
and every
Microsoft
time you might
paperclip
be getting into
technique.
trouble with something, your advisor
Are you
will
sure you
kind
wanna
of
do
knock
that?
on your window and say, "Wait a second,
Are you sure you want to
don't
settle your
forget to
capital off
take this
fresh water?"
into account." So, for instance, in your antiquity game, the first time you go to war, you might not remember to take your influence and spend it to add to your war support to keep you from war weariness.
We have a lot of influence,
Influence
right now, so
for
that'll
war
probably be coming
support.
soon.
Yeah, and so your
Interesting.
advisor is happy to pop up and say, "Don't forget to put your influence into war support, otherwise your people are not
Yeah,
going to
I
want to
don't
fight
mind
this
a
war for long."
warning
And speaking
system
of
for stuff
war,
that's going wrong,
us
as long
and
as you can
Xerxes
sort of
right now
turn
are
it
not
off
looking
if you
great.
need
We
to.
are not.
But
and
I
that's
don't mind
actually why
that.
I've been moving these units
Yeah,
over
it
here to
saves some
Chicago,
reloads,
because
but-
we're going to get ready to declare war on Xerxes since he is an opposing ideology.
Xerxes has been
in
a
moment,
villain in
we'll go
every
ahead and
single
declare
game
that
they've
war.
shown so far.
I did
I
also
love the
just use a
consistency.
prospector unit to acquire a factory resource, and we now have resource
He's
assignments
communist
available.
right
So let's go ahead and jump in to take a look at factory resources.
America joke.
America
I think
intensifies.
It was a town down
Right here.
Yep, where the quinine resource was acquired. Resources always look to see whether or not they can be used by the local town. If they can, when you acquire them, just get instantly slotted in. If they can't be used locally, then they go over to the left-hand side of this screen
And you
where
have
you
to
have to
allocate them
decide where to
yourself.
allocate it.
I wanna
But
see
that
the-
one was
the
available to
difference
be
in bonus
slotted in
between just
immediately,
putting them
so
in a
it did
city and putting them in a
so
factory.
automatically. And we can see that we have the factory symbol to the right of it, so
3%
that one is
culture
being
across your
processed.
nation, if it's
Down
in a
here in
factory.
Athens, we have a factory that's really humming. It is processing
3%.
clay, or the special kaolin clay that's used for porcelain
Factory escape
making.
culture, then.
And we have 4 copies of that there.
Yeah.
So we are
Because it's
pumping
got
that
the-
out. Each copy, it says, is giving us 3% additional culture.
Oh, I see, so it's all of the
that
resources in that
factory
city.
as a whole is giving us a 12% boost to our culture empire-wide, which is certainly very, very useful.
Nice.
The other factory resources, we can mouse over them, and you can see that fish help the growth rate of your of all your settlements, and citrus is a production bonus towards naval units, sort of reflecting how citrus has been used to fight off scurvy for sailors for a long time. So those are some examples of the
Quite
factory
literally in
resources, and
Monopoly's
don't
mode.
forget that those factory resources,
Production
now that we have them
units.
slotted into play, they're helping us with that Railroad Tycoon legacy path, so we're getting points towards finishing that legacy path.
It's also worth noting, we've got this bonus towards naval units, but when you do build a rail station and connect a city by rail, it also gives that settlement a 10% boost in training units. So there's an additional immediate yield effect. Of course, the building itself has yield, but you get 10% towards building units, and some of our other resources are also contingent on having a rail connection.
Production
so like
bonuses
furs,
for rail
for example,
again.
you get
That's nice.
additional
At
happiness
five.
if the city has a rail station.
Oh, I see. So yes,
If it
so
does
some
not, it's
just get better with
halved.
rail.
And does
Gotcha.
America have a particular bonus to resources? Is there something about the America Civ?
So they get gold every single time they improve a resource. So by using the prospector here, I was able to get gold for doing that. And then the prospector itself lets you claim resources outside of the normal range. So this resource here was more than 3 tiles away from both settlements. It was halfway between them. So I was able to pick that up, even though normally I wouldn't, and with any other civ I would not be able to.
So you can go and grab the
That's a really
oil.
good question, though, Sarah, because we have not talked about the unique quarter for America.
Right, the
And
industrial
we
park.
almost showed it off, but we kind of failed to dive deep into it. But it was sitting right next to that first rail station that Carl was.
Okay.
Is the industrial park, and America gets a rail yard and steel mill, unique buildings that, when combined together, make this industrial park. This
Industrial
is
park.
not does not create railroads on its own. You do still have to have that rail station.
Look at the
but
production
it sort
in
of
that way.
ties into that and gets some really amazing production.
Ursula, you have to
bonuses
play
when you
America
look at the
first
yields.
if you're going to have the best railroads in the world.
Civ. It's like a good Civ.
Well, we do have a lot of specialists on this tile as well. So we're getting a lot of science and a lot of culture from our specialists, and then those are boosting the production bonuses that
20
the
production,
industrial
22
park
science.
is giving us.
I think this could be
so
yet
really
another
young
time the
people
devs have made
here
America
that,
fantastic. Yep, Nicola, I
There are a
think you've
lot
got that
of
right.
wonders.
Absolutely.
That
I mean,
Sean
yeah.
has sprinkled around these cities for us, and wonders are also great ways to accelerate your adjacency bonuses.
Aircraft
so
carrier.
yields in general are super strong.
Huge.
We may actually
Look,
even
you look
wanna
at that.
turn on,
Loads of slots.
yields
Oh,
and
is
look at
that
those.
is
Let's
that
do
the
that. Thank
commander?
You for the reminder. I'm going to skip turn there. So if we turn on our yields, we can see.
Oh my God,
when we
it's
zoom in
so
on the
busy.
center, we can see the
It's
yields
so
on each of these
busy.
tiles. And this doesn't even have the
Man.
cannery finish. It's
Yeah.
going to go up by
Wow.
21 here in a minute.
28 science, look
but
at that.
the yields on all these
They
tiles
do
are really,
have
really
the
high.
big
This is,
icon when
within
you
our
have more
city,
than, what,
and we
more
do
than
have
5?
specialists
That's
on these
okay,
tiles,
good.
so that's what's boosting that there. But
Big
even
icons is
out
what we
here
need.
in our
But look how
countryside,
rubbish
all of our
rural
tile
tiles
improvements
are.
have some
Oh, actually, no
really,
saying that. That's
really
10
high
food on a tile
yields.
there.
And
Huh.
this just goes to show that
What
you can
about
do
these
some
open
pretty
tiles that have nothing
awesome,
on them? Why do they have huge yield?
gameplay with the terrain and
they Pantheons
the
boost
yield
them and
stacks
some
that we know that
text,
people
but-
really like.
And kudos to our game balancing team, because these numbers kind of have escalated in a crazy fashion.
Yes.
And some of our designers, Tim Fleming, has been the lead on that pacing effort. And so he definitely had
Numbers
some
go
tricky
big. I
problems
love
to
that.
work through to try to
I'm
get
a
the
big
pacing
fan
right.
of big number.
But we have everything playing out at the a pace that is appropriate for what we wanted to do, and so we're super happy about all that.
I know that we have gone into yields. We've shown a little bit of the ships in the water too. But before we move on from railroads, I have 2 quick questions on it. One from Habbo: can enemies use your rails?
If you have open borders, you should be able to teleport to their rail stations.
Amazing.
believe.
I'm not sure about that. I don't think that works.
Oh,
yeah.
contentious.
But
Like, if
if
you're
you
allied-
capture those cities,
You certainly can. Yes,
then
absolutely.
it becomes your city and you'll be
Absolutely.
able to use it. So it's not like, I mean, in the real world, there were things like the Soviet Union used a different gauge of railroad than Western Europe did. And so, when you marched into Russia, you couldn't use the rail lines and things like that. So they're not those types of problems in our game. If you capture cities, you can build your rail
railroads
network.
are your own,
Yes.
essentially.
Yes.
And then
But
the other
that is
question
the thing,
I
you
have
take
from
a city and
Aocash,
use it as a
does
settlement
building
that you teleport
railroads
your troops
benefit
to.
trade, or is it just for military
Yeah.
transport?
Maybe
it
you
benefits
won't race
trade
Florida
in
this
that
time.
if
You'll
you look at the
capture
whole
it.
trade resource
Oh, hey,
factory system
Bravos.
as one
Yeah,
system,
big
you have
numbers.
to have
Big
railroad
numbers.
connections back to your capital to be able to build a factory. You have to have a factory in place in order to take those factory resources and place them in the slots.
It seems
and
like
then start getting
factories
the
and
benefits
rail,
of it. So
they
it's
are
it's
limiting factors.
integral
Like, you will have to have those in if
part
you want
of
to
your
want to
sort
make
of
your industry
internal
pop.
network that fosters trade
Which
and
checks out.
resources and all.
Yeah,
the-
especially
the
as
whole
America,
railroad
because you have
tycoon
your
victory
unique stuff
path.
that.
And then, as we saw, the
Synergy
rail
with it.
station is also required to get the most out of certain resources, that they effectively double the amount of yield that they give in a settlement with a rail station, which is really, really significant. And while that's not directly tied to the rail connection from one city to another, having the rail station there multiple times will, by default, create that rail network.
We're going to see some huge stacking
So I think
things.
we're ready to go back up here. I jumped
look
the
at that.
gun and
Look at that fleet.
went up here. We can see we have some really cool ships and an aircraft carrier. So let's talk about naval and flight.
I
in
love seeing the
modern age.
Marines
What are you
like
gonna do with
actually
those
like
cool
as their
ships in
unit
there?
Well,
on the water.
like we said over with Chicago, we're prepping to declare war here, and I think we're just about ready to do so. But before we actually declare war, I want to talk about the aircraft carrier. And over here we have
airdromes
an
are
air
back.
base of sorts. So we've hinted that there
Yes!
is a third type of commander in the modern age, and that is the squadron commander.
Squadron
so here
commander.
is a squadron commander, and the
How are
squadron
you
commander
right
is
every
actually
time,
sort
Ursa?
of
How do you do
divided
it?
up into 2 categories. There is a land version, which is squadron commander. It must be on land. It always must be on land. You can pack it into other into a fleet commander and move it around, but you do have to base it on land. If you want something in the water, it has to be an aircraft carrier, which is a distinct type from the squadron commander. It's not an embarked squadron commander. This is a naval unit. It cannot go up on land at all, but it is still
two
a squadron
separate things
commander
like that.
of its own type.
Can we like zoom in on the carrier too? It's
Absolutely.
such a cool unit.
Yeah, so here we go. This is the aircraft carrier.
Look at all the boat design.
And
It's
then
so
I'll
much
bring
better.
us over here and we'll take a look at this airbase as well.
Love it.
Remember that
There is a couple of trees in the
American
airfield,
unique
but we'll
military
forgive
unit was
that.
the Marine that we
Yes.
showed on land before, and now we're seeing the naval version of it.
Yeah, so it does
With the
not
embark.
have a separate embarked unit asset like a lot of our units do. It just is the duck boat that goes into the water.
duck boat.
I think it gets this awning in the back to help keep out the ocean spray. But yeah,
You know,
this
the
is just the
highlight
same
of,
unit.
like,
it just goes in water,
battleships
and
being, like,
when
the
we attack
peak
the
of the
city
modern
up here,
era.
we'll see
Yeah.
when it
Knowing
pops
that
out, just
there will
drives
probably
right up
be
on the
another
land. It's very
era
cool.
later
Should we
on
test out
is
an attack?
awesome
Yeah, let's go
because
ahead and
like
declare
battleships
war.
do go obsolete,
So,
but they're
we're ready to
so
declare war. We're
awesome.
already
You
hostile.
need to
Negative
you need to
90
highlight
relationship.
battleships
You can see that
specifically
with
for so
Xerxes
long.
up on the second line there,
Right.
where we have the
So the fact that they'll have like the whole
red
era to
90
play
in
with,
the
you know,
heart.
instead of like going
So,
straight to
yeah,
missile cruisers is huge.
his relationship with us has soured.
It has. So because we are already hostile, we get the option for a formal war. If we were higher relationship, it would be a surprise war, which causes free war support for them. Here, because it's a formal war, he does not get bonus war support. We are getting a bonus war support from our military attributes, which we have
Hold on,
unlocked.
Xerxes.
We'll go ahead and declare this.
So a question from chat. I know there's a lot of interest in how the AI is going to take advantage of some of these mechanics too. Smegmeister asks, will the AI actually build and use airplanes in Civ 7?
Ooh.
Yes.
So absolutely. One thing that the AI doesn't have to worry about quite as much as in previous titles is it doesn't have to like build up the tech tree basis quite as much to going into modern. Everyone starts with at the bottom of the tree with obviously some boosts from the legacy paths and scientific attributes you've earned, but it doesn't have as far to get into the aircraft research as maybe it did in previous games. So people
Also,
see,
Aerodrome's not a
AI use of
specialist
aircraft,
district.
Absolutely.
I know. I almost wish we could have seen that first save you had and getting absolutely destroyed by
See,
the
he
wasn't
AI.
that much
throwing
fun.
influence in here to give
Right, maybe
the
not for the
enemy.
melee.
It was a nice
Reduced
redemption
combat
arc for me,
strength.
but
Of
yeah.
course.
So I'm dumping a bunch of our unspent influence into war support. So we are getting a
Wait, so
plus
war
7
support's a
support now,
combat bonus,
which
not
will
just
give
like a
us
grievances thing.
big
Yeah.
combat strength
That's
bonuses,
so
7 combat
big.
strength
The war
over
in your
Xerxes,
favor.
and cause him
Oh my
happiness penalties,
goodness.
which then results in yield penalties in his settlements.
Now he may have a bank of.
He may be
influence
spending some here
that
in a
he'll
moment,
spend,
yeah, when it gets to his turn.
Oh,
I am
influence
saving some of
points
it.
are
We've got
so big,
400
so
or
much better
so
than
influence
diplomatic
left, and that's to
or,
be able to respond
one of
to
the
other
main
regs that
yields,
pop up
yeah.
if somebody proposes an endeavor we want to support or a sanction we want to reject.
You also find that if Xerxes has an ally somewhere else in the game, it's often a case where one war can have a chain effect
Oh,
and
absolutely.
lead to a couple
Yeah,
other
before.
people declaring war. So it's always good
Oh
to
yeah,
sort of
big world wars are
be
going to just
cautious with
appear
spending all
now.
your influence at
Dude,
once.
I love seeing
We're
the
going to start by moving in
fleets.
our fleet
Yeah.
commander, who's packed up with a bunch of different units. Let's talk a little bit about those before we get back to our air
So before
units.
you talk about that, just what Carl just did was the first move was with the naval commander
Yes.
with the units still packed. They went one
fleet
tile to the
commander.
northwest. Then he was ready to get them into battle formation, so he immediately unpacked. And just like on land, the naval units work the same way. He's got them all spread out. And because the naval commander has the right promotion, they can immediately move
such
and
a good
attack.
promotion.
This
Yeah.
one right here
Yeah.
allows us to move.
I mean, that's huge. That's absolutely
immediately
massive
after unpacking,
promotion.
so those units are already.
I mean, I
ready
wonder
to
if the
go.
other promotions are also
So what
like
we have here are two
big,
different types of
you know,
naval
where
units.
it's a hard
We
choice
have
or
a
not.
battleship. Mouse over that battleship, and we have a destroyer. These are a heavy naval unit and a light naval unit. In modern, we start introducing additional types, classes of units, light and heavy.
Interesting.
Heavy units are bigger, cost more, and have more combat strength. Light units are faster, smaller,
Cool.
lower combat strength, lower production cost.
And we do have a really cool dev diary actually coming out tomorrow that's going to dive into combat, a lot of the mechanics that we're seeing here. So
I like the
There's a
new
lot more to
combat
explain there,
types,
too.
unit types as the game
Carl, we
progresses.
keep having this fighter plane
Absolutely,
come
yeah.
through our
I
screen.
like how
What's
every
that
era
all
everything
about?
gets more complicated.
So this is on
So it's
the aircraft
easy to
carrier.
dive
This is a
in the
fighter
very
who's on
start of the
patrol.
game, and then it
If you
gets
select
more
our aircraft
complex
carrier,
as you
we
go.
can see that the units are packed into it, and air units are always packed into a commander. When you have a squadron commander, or when you have an aircraft, it is either in a squadron commander or in the aerodrome itself, which has a sort of commander-esque ability to it. And they can never just deploy out into the map.
bomber.
But when you have a fighter unit in that location, and we have one up here in our squadron commander airbase as well, it is immediately on patrol. That is an anti-air unit. So if other aircraft come into range, it will intercept them, which is
So
traditional
other
for
players
Civ.
can see, oh, he has fighters up.
Right. Then we also have some bombers here, which are really good at attacking cities, which we're going to use here in just a moment. And then we have another aircraft type, which is new to Civilization 7. We have ground attack aircraft, in this case a dive bomber. So this unit is really good at attacking other units.
I'm really excited about
Right.
Yeah,
3
absolutely.
types of
It's,
aircraft, not
the
2.
bomber, we wanted to specialize
cool.
in a more of an anti-city role, anti-defense role, particularly
Cast
because
spam.
capturing
Cast spam
cities
has
now,
appeared in
really
Civ.
big, well-defended cities means lots of districts that you have to attack, so the bomber's really good at doing that, where the dive bomber, the ground attack aircraft, is particularly adept at attacking other units. So we'll go ahead and select that.
And while you do that, I do have an aircraft question from Buffalo Error. He says, does it mean that we can deploy aircraft on missions as in previous games?
You cannot deploy them out onto the map to do a patrol. They patrol
They're
where
patrolling.
they are. So
That's fine.
if you have a squadron commander or an aerodrome or an aircraft carrier, they patrol that location. You are able to move those units around. So
Poor scout indeed.
Scout.
poor scout. So we can rebase this squadron commander someplace else. So I can take this squadron commander and I can say, this is the rebase action. There are no locations for me to currently rebase it to. Once it goes back to a location, I can then deploy it back out into the map. But if we had an eligible location, we could move it around and then redeploy the
They
squadron
have to be,
commander.
I believe, on flat terrain
in
without
friendly territory.
vegetation.
Oh,
Friendly
okay. So there's a
territory.
few
Right. So,
restrictions.
There are rules for
Air's
where
gotta
they
be
can go,
built
but
up
once
to be
they're
able to use it
deployed,
properly.
that unit will patrol that area. So you deploy the squadron commander and create an air base rather than deploying the aircraft itself.
So we just looked at the fleet commander promotions, but the squadron commanders, they have promotions as well, right?
They do, yes. So the squadron commander has a
So
promotion
much
tree that's a little
complexity.
bit smaller with fewer promotions on each tree, and that's because
Airlift
it's modern
operations.
age only. So each commander has a little bit less that it has to worry about because it's around for less time, just one age in this squadron commander case. So we have dogfighting, which is all about anti-air, raids, which is about your bombers and ground attackers, logistics, which is standard for some of the other commanders, a lot of movement-based promotions there. And then airlift operations is really, really cool. It unlocks the ability for land units, infantry, to pack into this commander. And then
You can
paradrop
paratroop.
them out onto
Let's
the map.
go, D-Day!
And then eventually get the same thing for cavalry
Amazing.
units, so you can deploy your tanks out onto the map. And then in the middle here, we have a cargo drop that allows you to do a area
Heals
heal,
land unit.
at range. So this is pretty amazing and can really turn the tide of a battle.
Oh,
so squadron
wow.
commanders, super important. You want to have them and do air combat with them so you can get these promotions and then use that to...
That is so
I don't
cool.
know if we've explained exactly how they work in any of the streams, but how do you get to the commendation points down at the bottom?
So to get a commendation, you have to reach the bottom of a promotion tree. So if I were to unlock this promotion, and this promotion, I would get a commendation
Cavalry
point
units
that
can
I
be
then
airdropped.
spend on these at the bottom. I don't have to get every promotion in a tree. I can if I want to, but to get a commendation point, you just have to reach the bottom of a tree. And then I get that commendation point, and I can spend it on any of these commendations here
But I'd have to get to the bottom of a second tree
in order to get
the
an
second
additional commendation.
Heal after
Yep,
attacking.
exactly.
Anything that
Now,
heals
this is a little
when
bit
attacking
different than
is
our aircraft
so
carrier
broken.
because aircraft carriers do not have airlift operations. It actually has a contextually different promotion tree, which we will look at here in just a moment after we start our bombing on this city. We're going to go ahead and
Use
do
the aircraft
a
barrier to-
carpet bomb, which is a group order to command all bombers in this aircraft carrier to attack the city.
Oh, this is brutal. I love it. Oh, they've sped up the animation.
27 damage on the first run. 53 on the second one.
It's powerful.
Yes, it is.
And I love that because in so many of our previous games, to try to queue up 2 or 3 bomber attacks in a row was click, 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 and now Carl just did it with 1 click. And if he had 4 bombers
that's a
there, they
huge
would've
quality
all
of
4
life
gone
upgrade.
down.
Yep.
Between that and the unpacking, the commanders are a really nice addition to the game.
They're super fun, and they make things more streamlined. You know, it's you spend more time making the decisions and playing the game and not worrying about where you're clicking.
Right.
So we've destroyed the district defenses, and there's no defending unit, so I don't actually have a target to attack with our naval unit here. But if they move something up, then we'll do some naval combat as well.
Looks like a destroyer might have a
Question from
ranged
chat,
attack as
Can we
well.
use fighters to gain visibility over large parts of the ocean, or will we have to use naval units if we want visibility?
Aircraft by themselves have a farther line of sight because they're elevated. So they do give you quite a bit of visibility distance, and you can attack something that's in range that's still like very far away. So like I don't know that the fighter will have the range here. Bombers I think have a longer one. Yeah, so I can attack all the way up here.
Wow.
I don't have direct visibility on this tile, but it's within range.
Oh, that's
so
a big range.
Let's go ahead and we'll just attack here. Yep.
Oh, it's a dreadnought. Oh, I love the fact there's dreadnoughts in the game.
Yeah, let's go ahead and attack over from Chicago.
This one's not looking good for Xerxes. I mean, the other one wasn't either, but
We might have had a bad relationship, but I think we caught him by surprise, perhaps.
In
Marines
comes the
down
tank.
to
The
the
tank
Naval
does
River.
look nicely beefy. Huge on the map.
Another question from chat. Are there specific bonuses to heavy or light units, and can you specialize?
So heavy units have higher combat strength, slower movement, higher production cost. Light units have lower production cost, lower combat strength, but additional movement. There are only certain places where this appears. Naval is the primary example of that. So if you want a fast, nimble, cheap naval fleet, you want to go light. If you do not mind the longer production times and slower movement, then battleships are far and away the right ship for you.
But I don't think I think to answer that specific question, I don't think there's like an ability that's just with this particular leader,
Right.
their light units
Right.
are better.
But there will be soon. That's
you know,
absolutely
this
going to be a thing.
Late in the game is when we felt the real need to split it out into those separate troop lines. We don't have that sort of throughout the rest of the game, so we haven't really
We wanted to
explored
focus
that.
on it more with the World War period.
Right.
We did earn a promotion on our aircraft carrier, so now we can take a look at that alternative promotion tree, which is carrier operations. This makes the carrier
this makes the
more
flight deck
powerful
bigger.
and is different from the airdrop one. We can't pack land units into the aircraft carrier.
So you might be wondering also, like, what happens to my air units if I just build them back home and I'm trying to build up my collection of air units and then I'm going to get a carrier online and deploy them there. So we do, in this save back near our capital city, have a aerodrome, and Carl's going to bring that up in a second.
Let me teleport this unit over.
Okay.
So it unselects. And that was a whole... That, worth noting, that was an entirely packed commander that I moved.
Being able to drop
with
army
the
commanders,
move by rail.
not only making them unpack and attack at the same time, but also 20 tile railroad jumping.
And an artillery.
Yeah,
mad.
all moved up to 20 hexes.
Yeah.
That was close to 20 units. It was probably 15 hexes, all with that one operation by rail. Yeah, so combine commanders with rail units. Some of our fans
basically
who
going
love
to mean
railroads.
you
and
can
I know
keep
Ursa
a
Ryan's
huge
out
army
there.
I
hidden
hope he's
in your
out
capital,
there.
He better be.
and then just
better be
teleport
paying
it whenever
attention
you need,
because
so you
we
don't need
showed
to
a
keep
lot of
army
rail
on a
movement
particular
there,
border.
and
It just appears.
one or two clicks.
I mean, he did literally just say,
So
I
here's
know
our
someone
airdrome.
named Ursa
Okay,
Ryan.
so if we
who's gonna
click on
love
that,
this,
we can see that to some extent it is also set up
It's
like
really
the Squadron
cool.
Commander was.
It even
where
has
That's so
promotions.
funny.
it has slots.
It just is missing that extra contextual tree, which we want to encourage you to build squadron commanders and deploy them. So this is a little bit of a weaker version, but it's not completely.
It's built into this full tile building, though.
This
Just like the
can't move.
rail station we were talking about before, it's a full tile
actual
building in
aerodromes
the
have
modern age.
promotions.
Built into your
Interesting.
city.
Oh,
That's where you're going to
wait,
be
so
producing
there's
your aircraft.
the
and then sending them
aerodrome,
off
the
to
aircraft
wherever you
carrier,
need to
and
send them
the
off. But in this particular case, it looks like we also have a fighter patrolling making sure
Squad
our
commander?
capital is
Yeah,
safe.
they all have
And here we
different
see some
promotions.
beautiful
3 different
railroad
sources
gates
of
as
promotions
the railroad enters
for
our city.
aircraft.
It looks like there's some similarities,
Yeah,
but it's like a
the,
it's like a
level of
skimped
detail
down
as you zoom
tree.
in is
Yeah.
really awesome.
You wanna be
Should we
using
progress a couple of turns
the
to kind of
carriers.
see?
Yeah, we want to go ahead
And
and
the
try and take
commanders,
this.
but the aerodrome can do it as well if it
We
needs
also
to.
want to tell you what the point of this attack on Xerxes is, so we'll need to talk about our military legacy path here in a second as well.
We have so many
Too
planes.
many
to
planes.
use.
Oh no.
Yeah, maybe Carl, we could just hop into those legacy paths too and check
Sure.
it out.
Yeah, Carl, stop playing. Come on.
So we talked before about how Xerxes is following a different ideology than we are. So let's go to the military legacy path, and we'll see that this is called what we call the
Ideology
ideology
points from conquering settlements for the first
legacy
time.
path. And you gain points on this legacy path by conquering
So you
foreign
actually
settlements.
pick sides
They
with
can
the
be ones
ideology.
that, I mean, maybe there's been a war where you've lost a couple settlements and you have to take them back. That counts for you. So if you think about the historical World
Unlocks
War II,
Operation Ivy victory
the Allies
condition.
didn't conquer a lot of things permanently. A lot of it
What?
was taking back stuff that they had lost to their
think we
opponents.
found our nukes.
All this type of success
The thermo
oh,
nuke.
I think-
helps you in this legacy
So
path.
if
But you
Mon-
get moved further down this legacy path if you are fighting those wars against
I
your
love how it's structured to not be like
opponents.
the
So
definitive
it's
victory
1
condition
point
like we think about,
for
because
each
they're going to add a
settlement you
4th
conquer
era at some
before
point.
you even
So it's
have an
like, just
ideology.
get to nukes,
2
and that's
points
your
if you
victory
have an
condition?
ideology,
Maybe.
but
Or
you're
use
not
nuke,
fighting
probably.
one of your
Probably use
ideological
a- use a
opponents.
nuke.
And then 3 points per conquest
'Cause that can be
when
easily
you conquer a
adapted
city
into
against one of your ideological opponents.
Which we have
4th
about to do.
era.
Yes,
Yep.
you're about
You
to
know.
score a couple
I
of
think
these,
you're
I think.
As
absolutely
opposed
honest.
to
Yeah.
conquer
You
the whole
might get
world by
6
the end
in
of the
a hurry
modern,
here.
because
Yeah.
that's just a
And
that's
so
a dead
the
end.
20
Yeah.
points, might seem like it's a hefty thing to do, but
It can
it's
rack
achievable.
up.
Yep.
Right.
And then while we're here, do we want to look at science?
Yep. So we have a 4th legacy path.
First staff
and that
spaceflight.
is in modern age called space race. So Civ has
Here we go.
traditionally
All
always
3
had a
space race
science
projects.
victory
3
that was
projects.
a rocket ship blasting off into space and showing the
Transoceanic
forward progress
flight
and
project is the
momentum
first
of
one.
humankind being able to start thinking about getting out in space and colonizing the stars.
It's gonna be
And
that,
So Civ
then
7 is
probably
no
unmanned,
different.
and then manned.
We have a number of projects that are all related to flight. And so you'll see there's a transoceanic flight project.
That's huge.
Which is the
Yes.
first milestone
That makes sense
along
for
that
modern
path
era,
that's
too.
mentioned
Yeah.
here by the advisor. So since we've already built the aerodrome, we actually could go ahead and start working on that at
Yeah.
this point right now. But once you have all 3 of
So you don't need a
those space race
spaceport. It's
projects
the aerodrome
completed,
that does it.
then you are eligible to finish this legacy path with a victory. So we'll talk about victories
The first
just at
project,
the very
there's
end
probably
here.
a spaceport.
But,
There is a spaceport,
we've
right,
kind of
for
set
the
up
next 2
how you
projects,
get
right?
to them
We've seen
in
that
all
in-
4 cases.
They could
now.
be.
We've
You're
seen that
right.
in
And a
videos.
Yeah,
question
yeah.
from Grey Knight J: are there multiple ways to approach each victory type? For instance, is the culture victory winnable with means other than archaeology?
So you're going to have to use archaeology to set it up. But one thing that's really important that this question alludes to is it's your progress through all 3 ages that helps you towards these victory types. So at the end of each victory, and we'll just go into it now because it's
Yeah, why
relevant
not?
to the text. At the end of each of the legacy paths, you unlock the victory. And what we've always thought about is how best does a Civ game end? And we've thought about Civ games throughout the entire history of the franchise, and it's always something really cool, really special, really momentous that you do that triggers the victory.
They're gonna have
that always
projects
feels
to
the
finish,
best. So
aren't
whether
they?
it was blasting that rocket off
Winning
into space,
tourism on a random turn
or
doesn't
winning
really
a military
feel-
victory by
Yeah.
conquering that last capital, something like that always felt good as the way to culminate your victory. And so what our design team has done, and I applaud the folks who worked on this because it was a really cool solution, is we're racking up all these legacy points, but we didn't want it to be just a victory based on a score. We wanted the player to get a chance to feel that great sense of accomplishment. So at the end of every legacy path, you unlock a victory, and a victory is always sort of a special project you have to undertake to get that dramatic moment, and that will be a sudden death victory once you achieve that. So we're going to have a whole designer diary coming up in around the time of launch, I think it is.
Yep.
That's going to go into victories in a lot of detail. But one good example of that is when you finish the cultural path.
Nice.
That's going to unlock the World's Fair project, and you can start working on building the World's Fair. But how long does that take? It actually, it's a pretty hefty project. It takes a while, but every legacy point that you've earned towards culture in any of the ages is going to speed that up. So if you've been a culture player all along,
So this
you're
is
just
where
gonna
the ages
be able
feed
to
into
push
each
over
other
that
quite a
final
lot.
finish line a little bit faster than the players just made a last minute switch into culture.
Right.
And all the legacy paths are set up that way. We looked at the ideology one, and that one you're building Operation Ivy, which is going to get you nuclear capabilities.
No
I'm not gonna
nuke.
show nukes right here, but there is the presence of nuclear technology in our game here, and Operation Ivy is sort of the way to show that you are. That's historically where they evolved from the atomic weaponry of the Manhattan Project up to thermonuclear. And so that's sort of saying
So you
that
can
you're
probably
the dominant
use
military power and
atomic
you
nuclear
want
weapons,
Got
but the
it.
victory
And as you
condition is
mentioned, we
the
are going to
thermal
have a
nukes.
developer diary on the topic, so we'll
It's
be diving
like,
into more
we have
detail
this.
with that.
Don't challenge
but
us.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
What happens if the third age
I
finishes
like that every
before
victory
anyone
condition
gets
is
a
a
victory condition?
definitive
So,
project.
Yeah, yeah.
That you have
That
to finish.
is something that we thought about, something that can happen, and this will actually happen to you. The same type of system kicks in if you are playing a single age game. So for instance, I'm just playing an antiquity game. Then the victories, which we've shown, which are only present here in the modern age, are not available in those single age games, and it's all about who's accumulated the most legacy points.
Right.
So
it's basically
there's
a score victory
tracker on the
if you
victory
play
panels that we've been showing that
single age
shows
games.
legacy points
Which makes
accumulated
sense,
throughout all the
yeah.
ages, and you just will be able to tell
Because
who's going to be the winner
Comes
that
down
way.
to the points then.
Yeah,
right?
so that
Cities are
then we
very
do end up
easy
going
to kill.
points. And that's been
Yeah,
traditional
you
for
need
Civ
to
games,
man
is
your
that
cities. It
there
seems
is
like.
there is points being tallied in the
Which
background.
might
and if you
mean
need
the
to, if you
AI
run
might
out
not
of
be good at
time,
doing
the time
that.
limit,
But he just killed a
situation, the
unit
time
in a
limit victory
city.
was always scored like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Carl, catch us up. What's been going on?
I'm capturing cities. So we've already taken 2. So if we take a look at our victory progress,
So
we
I
can see we've
think
made
the
a
idea
bunch
of city
points here, just
capturing
like
is you got to
USA.
kill the
Six
units in the
is-
cities,
yep,
and
3
then you
points
can walk
twice.
in and take the city,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So we're well on our way to capturing Xerxes.
They're quite
Now,
similar.
how big an empire does
It's just
Xerxes
more like
have?
the
We're
health
gonna
of the
try to
city seems
take
to be
him
quite
out.
low.
He has 14 more settlements.
Oh my goodness.
Does the city even have
He's
health?
spread out
have a
quite a
lot.
bit. Yeah.
Because it doesn't have
Yes.
walls, right?
The walls had health, I think.
And
They had a health
most of
bar
them
when the
are
units were
continent, or
attacking
does
them.
he have them spread out?
But does that
worldwide?
city have walls? I don't see any walls
I
on
don't
it.
see a
It
lot over
did,
here.
but they're gone now,
I don't
which
see
means
Oh,
it
okay,
can be
that's
driven
I see
into.
on this one.
Right, he bombed it.
Yep, they
Well,
be
one more
dead.
question we have: are the
That's like when
victories
Roman
balanced
Holiday
to
said,
each
"I can't
other?
believe you
One
never
problem
settled
in
on the
Civ
coast."
6
And I was
is
like,
that
"Oh,
things
yeah?"
that culture would complete way before science victories.
So we like to think they're balanced. We've been spending a lot of time working on the balance,
Yeah.
but we know the way, the
We're
Civ
gonna break it.
community digs in and really attacks problems and finds optimal
Yep.
paths.
We will
through
break
the game.
it, don't worry.
So, balance is something that we're going to continue to look at throughout the lifespan of Civ 7. It's
they
an
might
area
patch it
where,
if you do too well.
We're not going to
It's a
expect to
warning.
get it perfectly with all the cool little
Ursa, Ryan, I
maneuvers that our
challenge you to
fans
make
will
them
come
patch
up
the
with,
game.
taking into account. So it'll be
can do
something
that.
that
Challenge
we're working
accepted.
on all the
We
time.
learn from our community.
The
constantly.
one thing that you'll see about these victories is almost all of them translate into sort of a progress track where you have to get a score. And so it's super easy to balance them just by making a few more score required or a few less. So balanceable, absolutely. Perfectly
Right.
balanced, we'll see.
Right. That is fair. Well, I think just given the breadth of Xerxes' empire,
Yeah, it's taking me a
perhaps perhaps we can look to the future and say we could get there, but it might
It
take
looks
us
like
quite
you're
a
having
bit.
fun.
I am having fun, yeah.
Stop it, Carl.
Well, I think, is there anything else you guys want to touch on? Or are we ready to go?
I think we're ready to go.
All right. Well, that was the modern age. And again, just scratching the
There you
surface.
go.
Yeah.
We got to show
They're-
off some
they're
cool
done.
things with
They're
railroads,
prompt.
naval air combat. There is so much to this age, and we can't wait for you to play it. February 11th is coming up so soon.
Less than 60 days.
And again, like I said, you could play even earlier, February 6th, if you pre-order the game. And that's day and date on PC and console, cross-play, cross-save. Really exciting stuff. Don't forget to follow the Civ socials. We're constantly sending through updates there. We have some new things that are coming out with this live stream, including a first look, as you saw, for Ben Franklin and for Harriet Tubman. We have new game guides for them, a new game guide for America, and as we mentioned before, we have that really awesome dev diary coming out tomorrow on combat. Ed and Carl, thank you so much for being here today.
Most welcome.
Yeah, our pleasure.
It was awesome. I'm gonna play you guys out with our performance last week at the Game Awards. We premiered the main theme of Civilization 7, Live Gloriously, composed by none other than
banger.
Christopher
Amazing.
Tin.
A banger.
Here it is.
So Ursa, I think that to recap, I think there's like a few like really important things
Yeah.
as we listen to like this rolls out.
Yeah.
First of all,
I'm gonna have to
there's not
turn
only-
it down.
Yeah, same. I did too. It's not only multiple personas so you have separate leaders per civilization. We also
Yep.
know that there's gonna be multiple leaders per civilization because
Yep.
America has 2 leaders.
Yep.
There's going to be 31 civilizations on launch, but there's gonna be 26 leaders
Yep.
on launch?
Yep. So not
And then-
every Civ will have a leader, but most of them will.
Yeah, most of them. And then we have the idea that there's going to be so the first era has commanders for military. The second
Yep.
era introduces then fleet commanders for your navy, and the third era introduces commanders for your air force. This 3-tier,
3 tiers of them. Yep.
like always getting more complicated warfare. Seems really, really awesome. There's I think we could say like there's a lot of cities. You can have a huge city cap by the end of the game, so
Yep.
like that's something to look forward
Yep.
to. You
Upwards
don't
of
have to be
20.
forced to play tall.
Yep.
We also know that there's victory conditions that are tied specifically to doing a final project at the end.
Seems
which
like all of them
there's-
have some sort of project you need to get your teeth into. Yep.
Yeah, so each era has these objectives that you're doing. So you always know what you should be doing and how to attain that. And all of those objectives lead up to that final project, which is really cool.
Yep.
That final project is only if you play the full game. If you only play the era, it's just the point system.
Yep.
But that makes sense because that also means that, as they said, the modern era ends as you predicted at the end of the World War Cold era,
Yep.
and it ends early compared to other Civ games,
Very
meaning
early.
that they're working on in a DLC extending and making a 4th era,
Yep.
which they
Pretty
kinda
much
said
confirmed. They pretty much confirmed.
They didn't
yeah.
say it
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah,
definitively,
yeah.
but it was like pretty much there. Like so, they're working on the first 3 eras to really solidify the game and get it figured out, and then they can expand it as Civ
Which I don't
always
mind.
does.
I don't mind a more condensed launch that works properly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that
no,
is
you
not a
have to,
problem.
because not only as the game developers and they can focus on specific mechanics to get them right, but also us as players, we can focus on some smaller mechanics before we get jumping into the whole big thing. Like Civ 6, there's so many leaders, so many choices, so many mechanics that are all very complicated.
Yeah.
So we get to grow with the game as we as you know, and as the game develops, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And also you can move that final capstone victory project to a different era easily because it's not technically locked to the modern era.
Yeah.
When they
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, and that's
Obviously, that's
easy
gonna-
to do. You could just either remove those projects or keep the projects in and give them a bonus within that age, and then you can crack on, or they could just remove the projects entirely. There's multiple options of what you could do on that.
Yeah. So like I don't know. That's super exciting to me.
Yeah.
Is there anything I missed there that you want to also highlight?
No, that's really good. I mean, I love the fact that the railroads have now become much more integrated,
Yes.
not just into the victory, but also into the economics of the city, right? Because that was sort of present in Civ 5, where if you put rail between your cities, you had a production bonus, not only the gold bonus that came with the roads before, it was an actual physical bonus. And now it looks like not only districts and quarters and buildings are all connected to it, and America is specifically connected to it as well. But you've also then got the whole resource system, which is tuned in, and balanced based on the fact that you've got rail. So it seems really important now. And also in the military, not only can you pack 5 or 6 units within a commander, but now you can teleport them from your Empire center right onto the front lines, unpack them, attack in the same turn. Multiplayer is going to be a frightening thing. Imagine being surprise ward, right? And then suddenly 3 commanders teleport via rail and then unpack and attack you with howitzers and tanks and whatever. Like,
surprise wars are gonna be so intense.
Yeah.
Wars in general are gonna be intense. It's gonna be so, every era it gets more and more complicated too, which is just so fun.
Yeah. And I think they've left the door open to some really interesting takes on Age 4. I assume information or like future information, whatever you'd call it, but
I would
everything
say
from
if
social media to internet to space projects to satellites. We haven't seen anything to do with satellites.
the space product did have satellites, I believe, in the modern era. There was 3 parts to the space victory. The first product was the transatlantic flight.
Yep.
Just flying from one continent to the other.
Yep.
Which is, I love that is in the science victory now.
Yeah,
because
huge
obviously
deal.
Not only is flight so important, and that project of flying across the Atlantic was so important in history.
Yep.
It also means that they can shift the whole science victory earlier to reflect the modern era and what was important in the modern era, and that was flight.
Yeah.
I think the second project was the I think you said first unmanned and then the first manned. I'm assuming the first manned project, the first project is going to be the satellite, and the second project is going to be the moon.
Yeah. So what I was saying in terms of satellites is again wild predictions, but I think in Age 4, my prediction here and now is that they will bring in a satellite system from the sort of vibe of Beyond Earth, where satellites could be put on a layer above the map and then interacted with the map below them. And that could be a way of integrating the technology side of things, right? The internet, the GPS, the whatever it is that you're going to be doing.
Space commanders.
And you could have space commanders. I saw a comment on that earlier. Maybe space commanders are the Age 4 thing. I don't know. But
that could be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, so maybe they have another commander, right? Because they have a commander for every era.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just have like, it's all espionage. You can see the map. You can see a lot more that's going on, and that can help in your war efforts as well if you can see what's going on. And
Age 4 is meme commanders. Yes, absolutely. They have.
I'm excited. I'm super excited. It's funny because they decided to split the game into 3 eras. Specifically not tell us how long each era was, get us used to the idea that there's only going to be 3 eras.
Yep.
So it's not like Humankind where you're constantly switching.
Yep.
So you have 3 distinct eras to focus on, and 3, of course, is just a good number.
Yep.
And then not tell us until now that there might be a 4th, but eventually.
Yep.
But first,
the holdout.
launch game
there
is
probably
going to
will
focus
be.
on the 3.
Yeah. And did you see the release of the first 2 waves of DLC as well? The first DLC is coming out literally in March, I think, and then the second one is coming out between April and then it's 4 months after that or something. So, and they'll be in waves as well. So in March we're going to have 6 new drops within a 4-week period, and then it'll sort of. So the development cycle looks pretty intense already.
The content creation cycle is going, the audience, the direct involvement is going to be so big at 2025. That's going to be so cool. Yeah,
it'd be really, really interesting. There's a huge amount that I've seen there that I'm quite excited about. I think Franklin maybe isn't as powerful as I maybe thought from the start. If it's just production buildings that all of his abilities apply to, fine, that's okay. I still think influence, I called this quite early. I think influence is an incredibly useful resource, and that's convinced me even more seeing a lot of those interactions in action. Influence is going to be, especially early game, a make or break thing.
Not only are you spending influence on doing projects together to do your research grants together and do all those kind of stuff, but you also use influence to not only ask people to join wars, but also add combat strength to your own units based off of which side the world favors. That is so important.
Yeah, you can mess with the map, right? You could just go, 2 AI are fighting and I'd rather my ally did well. I'm just dump a load of influence there, and look, they're probably going to win the match because they've got tons of combat strength. It's
Can you wait? Sorry, I want to quickly the influence is something you spend, but can other players spend their influence?
they hinted
to
it. Now
influence
I don't know
your
if
war?
that's a totally unconnected proxy war feature, or if you then join a war and then multiple people in the same war can all join in. But
Oh my
there is an
goodness.
ability to join in on your allies' wars and just dump influence there in order to increase war support.
So world wars.
Are gonna be a huge thing. Yeah. My other call on this, and I'm just predicting to the future, right? The other thing that I did notice on a couple of other streams, and this stream again is underlined, that cities look to be incredibly weak, not only to artillery and howitzers and battleships, but also to air forces. I think cities are going to be very vulnerable targets and very easily attacked. I can see attacking being way, way easier than defending. And I can see the units spam on the map. Like, I can see that the meta is going to be carpet the map so that you can't get units close. Because I think having stacks of powerful units has gone. I think this has gone back to sort of Civ 5 levels of 1 unit per tile, stacking them all out, having hundreds and hundreds of units just throwing forwards. Like, I can see multiplayer becoming that pretty quickly.
Focusing on the military and manning the defenses over my city is just untouchable because I have steel.
Yeah.
That's absolutely. I feel like that's way better.
Yeah.
You build
so
walls and all
much
of a
to
sudden you're
like.
untouchable. That's super cool to me.
Yeah, absolutely. My only reservations, I still think some of the UI and the map, it does look quite dark, especially with the way that the fog of war has been introduced.
Yes. I want to talk about this specifically because there's something very specific that I saw. I said in Civ 6, you have the small icons, and then when it gets big, you get the satisfying. This is a culture on this tile. Those big icons are back. Yep. But they need to be saturated. It's very muted right now.
It's on a black background. Did you notice? So like the beaker was blue on black, but what it needs to have is a blue background with another different blue on the top, so you can see the blue circle. Like that's what Civ 6 did really well.
Yeah, Civ 6 did the color really well. Obviously, because it's very cartoony. This is going way more realistic, but the colors in the UI specifically. Need to still be bright because you can have a nice realistic looking, like all the troops can look realistic. They can have like a pretty uniform color scheme, but you need the yields to pop.
Yeah, they don't jump as much as they should. I
say as the guy with pink hair that is currently popping right now on my screen.
It's fine. I've got a bright Santa hat on. I'm not a man of style.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I still think the darkness of it, and especially with some of the menus, they need to introduce. I noticed in one of the social policy menus, and then actually in the leader menu when someone was picking attribute points for the leaders, the only thing that identified that an option had already been taken was a tiny little tick in the corner of it. Whereas you need to make that whole thing pop a different color. Like this is what I've chosen, and it's activated. Like a button gets pushed down, and the whole thing changes color, rather than just like a tiny little tick in the corner. So I would say that possibly needs looking at as well. But I do love the map. The map looks really pretty.
Oh, the graphic, the moment that the first reveal came, I was like, my jaw dropped. The leaders they've been improving for sure. Some of the leaders I really like. Some of them I still don't like. I think those can still be. They don't have to shift those very far because I miss the Civ 6 caricature leaders, but it makes sense to have more realistic body proportions on those types of things in terms of.
Yeah, and people forget about the Civ 6 leaders as well. The variation in quality is huge in them. Some of the early leaders were so much better than some of the late leaders. The late leaders were basically, you could just see where they were copying assets from the old ones.
When Caesar came out, I was like, this guy looks funny.
I mean, his hands alone could bathe the world in glory. They were.
He also literally had copy and pasted trade disarmor, so it was pretty funny.
Absolutely.
I think that will be something that they work on with time. UI is, of course, one of the last steps, so they've always had the least amount of time to do all the stuff that they're working on. We'll see what changes and what doesn't. We can always say as content creators what we like and what we don't like. I think there's a few things. I think the leaders facing each other screen is not going away.
I don't mind that. I honestly don't mind that. I can see why people find it funny because it's very different. But ultimately, of all of the screens I looked at least in Civ, that was one that just did not bother me. For me, I'm more about the map interaction.
I'm getting more used to it. I think Bose puts an interesting perspective on it, where he's like, "Why is he talking to that person? He should be talking to me. Like I'm the leader, And even if I could see Ben Franklin on the left side, and I know I'm Ben Franklin, it doesn't feel the same way. It's not as gripping
I guess the argument on that
player,
is that the leader now has its own skill tree, right? You are actually upgrading and promoting the leader as an object, as an asset that you have under your control. So I do see that argument, though. I can see it both ways, but I think that's
Speaking of Bose's opinions on Civ, he just raided. So hi, Bose. Hi, everyone. We're doing a little stream with Ursa Ryan. Ursa Ryan felt really bad for killing me in Civ. No.
Just wait.
We're having a fun day bouncing ideas. Ursa Ryan and I, we've been having great days lately. So
it has been good, and I look forward to you seeing my horrible creation. Well, I mean, speaking of, do you have any last take? Because I will probably be disappearing very soon because I do need to rush this evening, annoyingly.
I also do need to run. I also have to get back to work. But for those people that just rated in, make sure you, of course, go to Ursa Ryan's YouTube channel. You can go to my YouTube channel.
And White Nerdy. Yeah. I was going to say.
Absolutely. We had a lot of thoughts. If you want to see our reactions to everything that just happened, you can go to our YouTube channels. That's going to be on all of our VODs. You can watch it at your own pace.
Yep.
You can also skip to the very end where we did actually a pretty good summary of what we thought.
If you did a good summary. I just sort of nodded.
Hey, you were like, but railroads. And you're like, you're right, I forgot.
Indeed.
Yeah, definitely go to the end of the VOD. I think we said some really important things. And there's been some really, really cool stuff about Civ 7, and I'm so excited. I've been getting. I think we were saying earlier, everyone was a little bit hesitant when some things were first announced, and we've been getting progressively more and more on board, and more excited, and more like fully behind what's going on.
I cannot wait. I just want it to release, and I want to play it properly with my own time. And I can't wait. It's gonna be really, really fun. Well, thank you so much for joining me on stream. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Of course. Thank you for accepting the invite to do this again.
No, not at all. And here is to the next horrific multiplayer game. And hi, Bose, as well. I know. Sorry, Bose, we'll hook you all up next time as well. I'm glad you had a good time.
Oh, by the way, Ursa, there's a few multiplayer games happening this weekend. So if you have the free time, let me know.
Well, some of the details we shall see.
All right.
See you later, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you so much, White Nerdy. I've got to run, but it's been a pleasure. See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.